Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 149. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin and the Duke of You-Know. Jim's actually not with me at the moment. Jim and I have had trouble getting together and recording this week. It's been my schedule that's been doing it. We had a 2.5 hour, roughly, segment of Raging Oscars that we recorded with the DC Universe. I'm going to use that on this episode as our show topic because it's basically a full-blown show. I also recorded some listener voicemails, and I'm going to have those on this episode as well. I did not want to wait any longer on getting those on the show. We're all caught up on listener voicemails as of this episode, and I please encourage you to continue participating in the voicemail line. We are, as always, proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Our sponsor for this episode is the New York Comic Con. New York Comic Con 2009 is almost here. Stop on by the Jacob Javits Center February 6th to the 8th and experience the East Coast's biggest and most exciting pop culture convention. The show floor plays host to the latest and greatest in comics, graphic novels, anime, manga, video games, toys, movies, and television. New York Comic Con is the second largest pop culture convention in America and the only one that takes place in the comic book, publishing, media, and licensing capital of the world. Special guests for the New York Comic Con 2009 include Adam and Andy Kubert, Brian Michael Bendis, Bruce Timm, Carmine Infantino, Jeff Johns, George Perez, Grant Morrison's, J. Michael Straczynski, Jim Lee, Matt Fraction, Neil Adams, and more being added all the time. And don't forget, Sunday, February 8th is Kids Day. All kids 12 and under with proof of age, get in free. So, bring the entire family to this year's New York Comic Con. For more information, follow the handy-dandy link on RagingBullets.com and join us at the New York Comic Con, because Jim and I are going to be, along with a lot of our fellow podcasting friends, in the podcast arena. We're looking forward to seeing you. The New York Comic Con is always a fun event. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Gotham Gazette, Batman Dead #1, written by Fabian Nicieza, art by Various, cover by Dustin Wen. A city looking to kill itself, a population without its dark avenger, without answers, without hope. A cop looking to save Gotham from its own madness. A reporter looking to reclaim her career by revealing that it's no coincidence the city's top billionaire and its urban legend are missing at the same time. A doctor seeking to regain her soul by stepping back into hell. One hero who can't quite get it right, no matter how hard she tries. Harvey Bullock, Vicky Vale, Dr. Leslie Tompkins, Stephanie Brown. What do all these people have in common? Without Batman, Gotham City continues to fall apart, and these extraordinary, ordinary people try to mend the city's wounds, looking into a dark night for answers. This one-shot special explores the effects of a missing Batman on its Deesians in Gotham City. Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. I'm a big fan of these one-shots. The JSA one-shots were great. The ones that went along with Green Lantern were great. This is a great example of people like Dr. Leslie Tompkins, for me. She is a Batman staple. And to see more of her and see how she fits in all this, Harvey Bullock, Vicky Vale, Stephanie Brown, these are all characters I like to see more of. I love these explorations of them where you get kind of a look into them. To me, it adds to the Batman mythos and adds to the whole Batman universe. So that's one I'm picking up without hesitation. Here's a series that I'm really sad that's ending, and I just realized it in the solicitation. Simon Dark #18. I was surprised I didn't see anything on the net about this one being canceled. This is a wonderful book. It's written by Steve Niles, art and cover by Scott Hampton. And this is one, it's regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. 18 issues, and they're canceling this book. It's a shame. It's one of those that I was figuring because it was took place in Gotham City and all that it would grab an audience. For horror fans, if you haven't been picking this one up, it's a fun little horror twist in Gotham. Really set in continuity. It's set in there, and it's been carved its own little pace out there. I would say, if just because it's being canceled, I would encourage you that it's collected in trades. You can definitely pick up the trades from InStockTrades.com. You can pick up this single issue from DCBService.com. Try this book out if you haven't read it, though, because I'm sure they're going to wrap it up really nicely, and it'll be a nice contained read. Don't let that discourage you from picking up this wonderful title. Whatever your shipping preferences, whatever your bag and boarding preferences, DCBS accommodates your collecting needs. Don't forget our In-Stock Trades Book of the Month. We're going to have a slight delay on this one. I've been coordinating with Mike Sims, and due to his schedule right now, we're going to delay this until sometime after the New York Comic Con. Flash Rogues. We're still doing it. It's still on the schedule. It's going to be our In-Stock Trades Book of the Month. It's regularly $14.99, only $7.94 with the 47% off discount. It collects Flash issues 177 to 181 by Jeff Johns, art by Scott Collins and Brian Boland. It's a great time to talk about the Flash with Rebirth coming up, to delve into one of Wally's classic stories with characters such as Captain Cold, Mirror Master, the Plunderer, Gorilla Grodd, and Pied Piper. It's going to be an interesting title to read. I know that Jim hasn't read this one before. It's 138 pages, so check that one out. We are going to also be doing Absolute Batman: The Long Halloween. I was going to do this for 150, and there's a very good reason why I'm not going to do it for 150. It's actually going to be 152, which is right after the New York Comic Con. We're going to start kicking this off. 152, 153, and 154 are going to be Flash Rogues and Batman: The Long Halloween. Well, for me, it's going to be the absolute one. We're going to continue doing those. The reason why I didn't do it, I could do it for 150, but then we'd have to do 150, end the discussion halfway through, do a week of New York Comic Con, and come back and do Absolute Batman. I would really rather have those episodes back to back. I think that will be a better listening experience. It'll also be a better recording experience for us to be able to do those and record those 2 weeks in a row. It's 15 issues worth of content, and I would rather do those back to back. I don't know if Flash Rogues or Batman Long Halloween is going to be first. It all depends on Mike Sims' schedule. If Mike Sims is ready to go right after we're done with New York Comic Con, we'll do Flash first. If he's not, we'll do Absolute Batman first. Episode 150 for us is now going to be Final Crisis number 7. We have a very special interview lined up that I'm hoping we can coordinate between then. I don't want to say too much about it now. There's a couple books in particular that I have not been talking about on the show deliberately because I've been setting up this interview. Those books would be Green Arrow, Black Canary. I might as well just say it. It's the colorist, David Barron, who has become a friend of the show. We've been wanting to chat with him for quite some time. Green Arrow, Black Canary, he is the colorist on. Superman Beyond 3D, he's the colorist on. And he's also the colorist on the brand new Vigilante series. So I would like to talk on that episode about all of those books. If we can coordinate that interview in time for 150, we will have him on for episode 150. We're also going to finish up in shorter segments our Wildstorm, Vertigo, and Johnny DC commentary on the Raging Oscars. And any voicemails that you guys want to bring in for episode 150, please go ahead and get those in. I will get 150 related voicemails on episode 150. So you got some time right now for the next week to kind of get those voicemails into us during the week. We would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And if they don't make it in time for 150, keep sending them in because we'll get them on the shows afterwards. After that, 151 is for sure New York Comic Con related stuff. So there we go. But Long Halloween is available from InStockTrades.com. Regularly $75, 37% off, $47.25. $19.95, 37% off, $12.57 for the trade paperback. InStockTrades.com offers free shipping on orders of $50 or more, has a ton of collect editions in stock and ready to ship. Thank you for supporting us, DCB Service, and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
This is really funny. We're going to do our Raging Oscar segment at this point. I was going to say Final Crisis. Like, we just did that.
We just did that.
Jim and I were just talking as I was running down the segment for Final Crisis, and we're leaning into the mics. We don't need to lean into the mics because we didn't have any recording on.
Yeah, we weren't recording. We were just talking, and we're still leaning in, and you're kind of edging into it. I was like, dude, we are just absolutely insane. Now, speaking of insane.
Okay.
I was going to do a little funny bit for the Oscars this year.
Okay.
And what I was going to do was the Sensei of the Whatnot would have his comments, which would be a personal based, just on what I like, what I enjoy, what I'm reading, what I'm raving about. And then James Segulin was going to analyze stuff and have more of a mathematical, analytical look at the different titles.
You were going to have multiple personalities do your
Yes, I was going to have multiple.
Really?
And I started working on this. And, oh my God, not only was it absolutely just bad, even for my standards, it was dang near impossible for me to come up with a non-emotional judgment.
How far did you get onto all this?
Well, I had a couple that I had done. I worked on...
How much time did you spend on it?
That was multiple days. You know when we first started talking about the Raging Oscars?
Well, ages ago, yeah.
3 weeks or 4 weeks, No, like 5.
I've been working on this in September.
No,
so.
when we first named what episode was going to be.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Because that's when we really, 4 weeks ago, we started really reworking everything and finalizing it, sure.
And I don't remember what episode it was, but I kind of you're like, yeah, and you're like, I changed some stuff up, and like, yeah, so did I. I just made it laugh.
I changed stuff as of today.
Right. Well, but I kind of did a little goofy laugh. That's when I came up with the idea. So about 4 weeks ago, I came up with this idea, and I started working on it there. I worked on it for about 2 weeks, a week, maybe a week and a half.
It does sound like a funny idea.
Yeah, and I still like the idea as a concept, but
right.
I could not come up with any non-emotional response, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do this. And I was even going to kind of even change around my voice a little bit as I was talking. I wasn't going to do a Batman voice for Sensei, but I was going to do a little bit more, fun, my real voice. And then the Sensei, then James, James would have a little bit more of a solid, a little bit more somber sound to his voice. Well, as I was looking at this.
Did you practice this?
Dude, I'm doing it in the voice right now. What do you think? Come on. As I said, insane thing I was thinking about doing.
I love this.
But yeah, so who knows? Maybe for next year's Oscars, maybe you guys will get to meet James Seguin.
Did you practice in front of a mirror?
No, I did not need to practice in front of a mirror, but I did practice reading the stuff that I had written. And
this would be great. We could do the whole James Seguin thing to the Jetsons music. Meet James Seguin. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, we know we're going to get a Where's Whatnot now.
His boy Whatnot.
Daughter Whatish.
Norge, get me out of this thing. It's pretty ill that I came up with that on the fly. There's something wrong with me.
There's something wrong.
That's why we work so well
together.
We have issues, clearly. I want to give a shout out to David Wallace again. David has been a long-time listener of the show and friend of the show. He came up with this way back in 2007, and we started doing this. And one of the things I really like about doing the Raging Oscars is I get my box every week, and it's the highlight for me. Opening up the books, reading all my books, I genuinely enjoy them on the level that we talk about on the show. But there's a hierarchy to it, and a lot of this for me was I started thinking to myself, if I had to cut myself down to 5 books now, what books would I cut down and what criteria would I use? So that was a lot of my driving force when I was doing this. And I started looking at each line that way and saying, if I had to cut down this line to 5 books, how would I do that? What books would I pick? My heavy focus here was on the DC universe. Our show's heavy focus tends to be there, so I did that. I did a smaller segment for Vertigo and Wildstorm, and the main reason why I did a smaller segment on this episode rather than going full... Last year we didn't do anything on Vertigo and Wildstorm for the Raging Oscars, so I wanted to acknowledge them. My thinking of this is every year this is a work in progress. We'll grow and expand upon it. Now, just a point of clarification. This is on gut emotional response for me, and these are what's personally right for me. I didn't look at what is good for the overall comic community, what the overall comic community is going to label as their favorites. And I encourage you, when you listen to this show, afterwards, for yourself, go through, and even if we have a category that doesn't work here of something that you want to rage about, I encourage you in this thread for this episode to please put down the books, the creators, things like that you want to honor, that you want to rage about. I hope that this thread, and I said this last year as well, will be something where people who are looking for books to read, and please put the why. I think that's much more important than even just the books that you chose or the creators you chose. Because I think somebody who's saying, okay, I'm not reading this right now, when they see a response for somebody, sometimes one comment you make about why you're liking something may give somebody the opportunity to try that book for themselves. So the idea is right now, any book, wherever it falls in your hierarchy, put that in there. I did add, compared to categories that we had last year, some I removed because I wasn't really into the response. I wasn't really sold on my person or book that I was putting in there. I was just putting it arbitrarily. So I'm like, well, if I don't have an emotional tie to it, why am I putting this here? It's not what I want to rage about at the moment. And there were some new categories that I made up, or some things that I lumped together because I felt it was a better way to express myself. So I want a little bit more freeform out of this.
Cool.
I followed kind of the same guidelines and parameters that we did last year, but I kind of reworked it in such a way that worked personally for me. And I encourage people on the forum when you do that, anything you want to rage about. There's books you're like, geez, guys, you should have talked about this one. This is your personal list. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about what's right or wrong for you. So when you make your list up and you go on the forum, please, share with us the things you like. Don't worry so much about contradicting us, because I'm not making this list and saying this should be what everybody thinks. It's what I think. And that's kind of my point here. And that's what's fun out of this for me. I like to read what other people think outside of this. So please do that. Go to the forum. And I'd like this forum not to be a debate. So this particular episode thread, let's not worry about contradicting other people when they go on there. Let's worry about just sharing our thoughts. Make a whole big thread of our thoughts on what were the great things. Let's celebrate comics in that thread. So that's kind of my thing right there. If you disagree and you thought somebody else should be in the top spot, tell us, put it in there and just say, hey, this was my top pick and here's why. That, I think, is what I'd like to see out of this. And, let's let people read that and enjoy that. And what I'll probably do is put a direct link to this episode thread on our website to kind of encourage people to read it and see. So please, let's make this one the focus of this one, to really just kind of celebrate comics from 2008. What were your favorites? Jim, do you want to kick off with...
Yeah. Well, I have kicking off with the ongoing title. I broke it down solo and team book.
So did I.
Okay, so we'll do solo
I actually
first.
broke it down a little more than that.
Yeah, I have a little bit more as well. Mm-hmm. But, with solo titles... I kind of have. There's so many out there that I could say yes, but I narrowed it down to a top three, and I'm not gonna I'm gonna tell you my top three and the winner. Then I'll say a little bit why I did this.
Okay, good.
My top three standouts were Superman, and when I say Superman, I always mean Superman Action Comics. Okay, I think of them as one title. Same thing with Green Lantern, Green Lantern Corps, Batman, and Detective. I always think that way, and that's just the way I am. And
even when Action and Superman were separated with different. Like during the year with different
because when
teams,
I say I
before Robinson and that type of thing.
Okay. Even when they're separate, because when I think of Batman, when I think of Superman, I think of both their titles. I think of the adventures that's going on in both of them, and it's an advantage and a disadvantage for them. Because if the one title is really hot and the other one's kind of lukewarm for me, it will pull him down a little bit. But but it can be an advantage if they're both on fire. Then it rises them above. Right.
Okay, and I agree with that.
Superman, Wonder Woman, then my top spot once again to Robin. With Superman, I really had a hard time distinguishing between Batman and Superman. Okay. The looking at the two, and they're both right there. Batman, by the way, was my number 4, if you're curious. And the thing that finally took me over the edge was hoorah moments. For Batman, I was loving the mystery. I'm loving what I'm reading. Great looking, just awesome stories, these great detective stories. But with Superman, I was excited to read it. That's the difference. It was intriguing versus excitement. The great mystery, the great story versus that, Superman. I am a Superman guy. And this is, one of the things, and I'm seeing the geek out. When we first got jumped into this and we did Up, and Away, it once again just reignited that passion I had for Superman. Like, this is cool. And it's going on. Every story that's fleshing out. Then with the current stuff going on with the triangle numbering and just all this cool Superman moments and just cool Superman stories just had me going, you know what? Superman's in my top 3. I got to give it to give it to Big Blue. And it's also not just give it to him from what I've read, give it to him for what I'm seeing, what I'm expecting. It's that what's going to happen next. I'm excited for what's going to happen next. And is the huge thing.
When you were saying you lump them together, I was just curious about this. Do you lump in then Supergirl now because of the triangle numbering? Or is that considered a separate category? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I do look at it as the Superman family.
Okay.
And there's the Bat family.
Right. But you're breaking
when
this
I
down
say
to
Superman, I mean Superman action.
I was just curious because it was interesting when you were talking about how you grouped them
Just
together.
like when I say Batman, I'm saying Batman, not Batman, Nightwing,
You're saying
Robin.
Batman and Detective.
Right, Batman and Detective. So,
okay.
Yeah. Now, Wonder Woman, I don't think this will be a surprise for anybody that, we've been gushing about just what we're doing with the revamping. It started with Circle, and it's gone straight on through to Olympian, and really, we're seeing not only these cool Wonder Woman stories, but we're seeing these great Diana stories. And this is a time when I'm learning why she is a member of the Trinity, why she is this epic icon of a superhero in the DC universe. And as I said, it's the hoorah moments, it's the laughing, the funny bits, the personalization of Diana, her relationships, her growth, her friendships, the cool gorillas. There's so much going on in this title that I keep gravitating. I reach for this. And it was actually tough for me to pick Robin over this. And I'm a Robin guy. I've always been a Robin guy. I've always been gushing about Robin and saying, yes. But it was one of those things where I was just like, man, and I toyed with it a little bit. Wonder Woman almost beat Robin in this hierarchy of mine. But, in the end, I did go with Robin, and when I get to Robin, I'll explain why. But it was, it was a tough fight, and Wonder Woman is just this really awesome character. And once again, she's not an awesome female character, she's an awesome character. And I know as a kid, when I was a little whatnot, I wouldn't have read Wonder Woman, because I would have been worried about people saying, oh, he's reading a girl's comic. And
there was that stigma.
There is that stigma. I wouldn't have done it. Now, I think this
was that stigma.
Yeah, there was that stigma. Was that stigma. But, I think now, if this was the comic back then, I think I would have been tough enough personally to read it, just because it is such a cool story and such a cool character. So it's, I don't know if it's, the environment's changed, if I've matured, because I'm a little bit older than I was when I was a little kid, but there is something about this character that it's not, she is a cool superhero.
You're talking about as a kid, though, not as a teenager, though, right?
I'm talking as a kid, teenager. I was a little bit, when I was a teenager,
I read Wonder Woman without hesitation.
See, even as a teenager, when I was reading my X-Men stuff, my Wolvie stuff,
really?
I don't know if I would have read Wonder Woman just because of that. Even though
X-Men had such a powerful character, like Storm was leading the teams for.
Yeah, and Storm was leading the team, and all the cool characters, and
okay.
But if anybody ever asks me why do I read X-Men, it's Wolvie, man. Wolvie's rocks, because Wolvie's Mr. Testosterone. So it's So, but I think. I don't know. I'd like to think that I would have been mature enough to say, yes, I'm reading Wonder Woman. Because even now, when I'm at work, I tell people, Wonder Woman's a great title. Really? Oh, yeah. And people don't, it's...
I read the Perez Wonder Woman in high school, because I came out, and I really enjoyed that book. And so, that wasn't an issue. I don't know. I didn't go around, telling everybody and their uncle. But I didn't, honestly, in high school, unless people breached the conversation about comic books, you didn't really have it. It wasn't at that point where... You did. This is when Dark Knight was hitting and all that.
Right.
So it was interesting. I talked to Bill a lot, friend Bill about it a lot. But unless people were collecting comics, we didn't.
You didn't really talk about it and stuff like that. So I know. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. Now, of course, Robin won because it's just I get so much just joy and just happiness out of this title. We get Stephanie back. We got Freddie back.
Yeah.
We got Fabian Nicieza, who just talk about just kind of getting put in a bad situation to take over a title, because there was a lot of those ongoing beginning story arc. There was the RIP stuff, so I could bet he was a little bit in constraints on what he can do, and just talk about taking the ball and running with it, and just putting out just this amazing story that I was reading. And this, once again, you have this established character. Tim Drake Wayne he's a hero of his own. He's his own right. He already is an established character, but he still had to go through more growth. He still had to go through this metamorphosis. He still had to step up, if you will, and, kind of take on this larger share with Batman being gone. And you see this character going on, and I'm looking forward to, I always, with Tim, I think outside the comics so many times that I don't see him as Robin. I see him as Tim. The book
takes me beyond the pages.
And I'm his buddy there, Tim, who knows his secrets. And, okay, dude, can I help you out? You want me to buff the Batmobile for you? Do whatever you want. I want to be his friend. I want to be his sidekick.
Now, is it Sensei of the Whatnot that hangs with him, or James Segulin?
No, Sensei of the Whatnot. James is very, James doesn't know about Tim.
Oh,
James doesn't know any of this stuff. He's completely in the dark.
You're like Sybil.
Okay. Wait till you meet my other characters. But no. And I think it was this, thinking beyond the character. It was this, what's going to happen with Tim? What's going to happen, with the Bat family? And all these unanswered questions. There's this great mystery that's unfolding that I'm like, that's what keeps, Robin in the top spot for me.
I broke mine down by A-list, B-list, and C-list characters. Their books that I was doing. Because I found that, I wanted to honor... So I didn't do a top 3, so to speak. I broke it down by those categories. But then I have an overall that is out of that category. So let's start first with my C-list. The C-list character that I really wanted to talk about is Jonah Hex. It's self-contained issues. Every so often we get those 3-part crossovers and all that, but Gray and Palmiotti and the art teams, we have different art teams every so often. We get, I remember Rob Schwager on the colors was something I always noted that I really enjoyed because of the atmosphere and tone and mood of how it kept that Wild West setting, but just the art teams that have been throughout this year. Jonah Hex is a quality title every single month that I would have a lot of trouble if I had to cut down my budget dropping, because it's its own thing. It gives me something so totally different than anything I get. Every issue's good. There's issues that are just totally kick butt, where I'm just like afterwards. I literally was over at my buddy Jim Brady's house, and as kids, when we grew up, I didn't read Jonah Hex. I didn't read Sergeant Rock. He was reading those. I would look, at some of his issues, but, that was kind of my fix for those things. He was a huge fan. I gave him specific issues this year of Jonah Hex. I said, dude, I know you're not reading monthly comics right now, and you tend to grab, because he picks up the showcase volumes and the older stuff. He tries to get a lot of that stuff. And I told him, I said, dude, you've got to pick up the current Jonah Hex. He picked it up. He's reading it. I got him for his birthday present, the Origin trade paperback from it.
Oh, nice.
It is stuff. He said, he said that the Matador issue was the one in particular. I told him, I said, dude, you've got to read this Matador issue. It's outstanding. And it really was. It's my top C-list character book. It's one of those characters, I almost bite my tongue to even call him a C-list character because I want to bump him up to the B-list, but really realistic when you take a look at how the general population knows Jonah Hex, he's a C-list character. He's a great C-list character, though.
The funny thing is, with Jonah Hex, I resisted so long, and then I got into it, and then I tried to go back to trades, say, I'm just going to buy trades for Jonah Hex. And as I was sitting there, because I had a stockpile of some issues, that I hadn't read, so I'm like, I'm stockpiling the issues, so I can just go to trades now. I can do this. And I'm like, well, before I buy the trade, let me get caught up. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I read the issues, I'm like, I can't wait. And I keep still getting the monthlies. I can't just shift over to trade. I can't bite the bullet and say I'm just going to get trades on Jonah Hex, because every time I read him, I'm like, damn, that's cool. That's a cool issue.
So it's one of those that I really wanted to say, okay, this is my number one C-list book right now. I think it's kind of a cool way to kind of honor something that I think deserves accolades. Now, so I went to the B-list, and this is another one very similar to Jonah Hex. I almost cautioned to call this a C-list book, and this took me a long time because there's so many great B-list books. Same thing with C-list though. There was books like Manhunter falls into that category. Blue Beetle, Booster Gold. I think those all fit into C-list character categories. We get into B-list Nightwing for me. And it really was Robin for a lot of the reasons you just said. I totally 100% agree with you. But Peter Tomasi, when he took over Nightwing, I grew up as a kid watching the Batman series. Dick Grayson, for me, was my friend growing up. Very similar how you talk about how you hang with Tim Drake. Dick Grayson was a guy he was my accessible guy that I would hang with, and that, from Super Friends and all that, and really from the Batman show, Holy, Caffeine, and all that other stuff that he would throw out. Dick Grayson was, the cool character. As the years went on and he became a teen, I read him in the 70s where, he went off as a teen into, the college years and stuff like that, and he would come back into Batman only every so often. Teen Titans. Dick Grayson, just a cool character. All of a sudden, Peter Tomasi hits this book, and from the Sky Glider to the castle and everything that he was doing there, Dick Grayson became cool again. There were moments where he was doing things, jumping, from balloons, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is great. Yeah. Dick on his motorcycle became cool again. And one of the great things I like about Nightwing and Robin, it's actually a nice connection to yours, is when you see these two characters together in their books, you get to feel like they're two cool brothers that hang out together. You want to know them.
Oh, God, yeah. It's that brother. We talk about the Bat family, and these two are brothers. And even they make the reference to each other, and those are some of the cool moments, like the one Nightwing issues where Tim went with him over, and he's like, Tim, you want to come along? Yeah, you see him just spring into the bad chat. He's like, aren't you forgetting something? Your costume? Oh yeah, and it just, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see doing that. I can see doing that.
Really important to me as the year goes on that we continue to see the relationship between these two characters, because for me, their relationship is just important to me as their relationship with Bruce. And I think it's they don't need to be in every issue together. I don't want to see that. But when they do have those moments, the selected times, his interactions with Alfred, his interactions with Bruce, where Bruce kind of gave him the nod and all that. Peter J. Tomasi's writing of Nightwing, for me, was spot on and stellar. It's just a great book. It's been a great looking book. My excitement, But Peter Tomasi this year, because of this book, Green Lantern Corps, Outsiders was a no-brainer. Just pick it up. Peter Tomasi's writing? Sure. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. He is just one of those writers now that I gravitate towards anything he does. He's got that The Mighty coming out. How much you could grab it? Because this guy's great. So, he's become one of those writers that on name alone I will follow. But Nightwing is one of those. He has given a Nightwing to me that I think is exciting and compelling. And whatever happens after R.I.P., I would love to see him in some capacity come back to and write Dick Grayson at some point, if that's not in the cards right now, because I think he's done a great Dick Grayson. So that's my B-list character. I also, can I mention something for Robin? So you should mention it. This year was also Chuck Dixon on the book. And I thought Chuck Dixon as a writer on it was such a nice transition from Chuck Dixon to Fabian Nicieza and all that. I think the whole book has had I agree with you on your Robin. It didn't wind up on my list there, but I definitely want to talk about those issues as well, because I think Robin has been a great book, and it definitely deserves accolades across the board for the entire year. I think it's been a good read. But Peter Tomasi for Nightwing was my shot to the arm. That's what put it in my favorite B list. My favorite A list book is also my favorite ongoing series. And I didn't do a top 3 on this one. My favorite ongoing solo series, Batman. And I mean Batman. It's really, I can narrow it down to just the Batman. And I deliberately, this is not disputing your way of looking at it. I really tried hard for myself. I found myself when I was doing these lists, I started going through and doing all of the titles. And it started turning into my top bullets, where I had 40 books for every category. And I'm like, well, Jim and I will do like a 25-hour episode. It also meant that we wouldn't give enough time to really chat about the books. So I made a conscious effort to myself to make one for each category. I broke this down to A-list, B-list, and C-list because I think, we break down our comics that way anyway, so I thought it was important to note them. But my best ongoing, Batman with R.I.P., and just the whole year, it's been like, it's reinvigorated Bruce for me. I've really enjoyed the Morrison book and what he's doing with them. He's captured what I liked about the 70s Batman, but he didn't go right back to there. It feels like he came out of everything that we saw prior to it. So it wasn't like we instantly jump back in continuity of the 70s, but he brought in so many interesting things, and R.I.P. was really just a culmination to it, including those issues following, the Last Rites issues, which those were the two that set it over the edge for me. The ending of R.I.P. was fantastic, but it was those two Last Rites issues. It kind of was a culmination of a really great Batman year for me, where I felt like I was hanging with my favorite character again. R.I.P., I agree with you. Everything you said about the pacing of it, that was what I liked about it. And I'm not saying you were wrong. You're right. You're more of a Superman guy and all that. I'm more of a Batman guy, and the mystery for me was, I liked that I was beating my head against the wall trying to figure out what was going on, and that it really bugged me that I didn't know, and I kept rereading the issues trying to dig into the mystery. And when I would find little tidbits that would give me clues, that's compelling Batman reading for me. I want to feel like I'm there with the detective and going along for the ride. And there's times where I want to feel like he knows a little bit more than I do. And I did. And it was for me, everything that he laid out for him, Bruce knew more than I did. He was one step ahead of me. And I want to feel that way on it. But I want it to afterwards go, yeah, okay, I get it. It's like, Last Rites, though, was a great journey through Bruce's life. Being able to see the life that could have been, seeing him rebelling against it, how he went through it. So it was really just this year for Batman for me, it's been a long time since last year when we did Top Bullets, he wasn't the number one for me. This year he was, and I'm proud to say that. And it was great to have him as my favorite ongoing solo character for the A-listers. And it's a compliment to Batman that it had such compelling competition in. Superman was phenomenal this year.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was phenomenal this year. Green Lantern. These are books that I consider A-list characters. And wow, it's my love for Green Arrow, Black Canary, which to me, I'm considering them A-list characters at this point as well. Green Arrow, Black Canary, I think they're up there as well. So, team books, we went into there.
Yeah.
What did you do for team books?
Well, now I have 3 main standouts,
Okay.
and once again, I'll just tell you what they are, and the last one is my Oscar: Birds of Prey, Green Lantern, Teen Titans, and JSA. And yes, I know I said 3 main standouts, and I just listed 4 titles. We'll get to that in about a minute.
Go ahead. I always like how you justify this.
We'll get
stuff.
to that in about a minute. There is one
This is clearly,
title.
This is clearly not James.
Right. No. There is one team title that is missing from that list, and
Okay.
if you've listened to the show recently, you'll probably be a little surprised, and that, of course, is Secret Six. And I do want to explain why Secret Six is not on this list.
Okay.
With only 4 issues in 2008, I felt it had an unfair advantage to be included in with this list. Especially because I really wanted JSA to win, and there's no way JSA was going to beat Secret Six, so I eliminated the competition. But it's also, you think about it, 4 issues, if it's fresh, it's new, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to naturally fall into your top of your list. So that's why, for this Oscars right now, Secret Six is
It'll
not
be eligible for next year.
It's definitely eligible for next year, and it would have won easily. Now, I was gonna leave out Birds of Prey, and because it was my number 4, it is my number 4 team book, but I just couldn't do it because of the whole cancellation of it. Because, I just so loved this title and this team. And it's something that's over, when Gail first left it, I was like, I don't know. And then as it's chugging along, I'm like, man, you know what? This is more than just, Gail Simone writing. This is a cool concept. This is a cool team. These are cool individuals that are making a stronger, powerful unit. And I was just like, I cannot not talk about these guys. I gotta mention them. Misfit, she's just, the growth of her is just a pure joy. Anytime we see her in there, the dark vengeance, and just her, having little, hissy fits when Black
and
Alice.
I like her so much that in the Titans tryout issue,
yes,
I wanted to see her join the team because I like her
big
so
time.
much. Yes. I'm sorry. I was just smiling when you were geeking out about her.
Yeah, and like with Barbara, I so do not want to see her story ended. She's got to be more, and she's got to be used somewhere else, and not just a big character occasion. I want her a major player in a title. I want her to be.
I think we're going to see that after the Kevin Van Hook miniseries.
I hope so. And
I like Kevin Van Hook as a writer, so I think that's going to be really good.
And there's one rumor or speculation I saw online that I so hope happens. And it's that in the miniseries, Barbara gets her ability to walk back, and she becomes Batwoman. You see in those teasers with the Batwoman there, I'm hoping that's not the Batwoman we see. Now, I have nothing against that Batwoman. She was a cool character. I liked her growth. I liked the introduction, but I see the flaming red hair. I see her holding the spy glass, the magnifying glass, kind of like the detective, kind of like it's I don't know, just something about it. And and you also see in that teaser picture the broken wheelchair in the background. I'm like, part of me so wants that to be Barbara Gordon. I don't want Barbara to become Batgirl. I love her as Oracle, but just something about it, I'm like, you know what? It's time. It's time to bring her back in the tights. Time to bring her back, throwing down and fighting. Now, if it never happens and she remains Oracle for the rest of her existence...
Batman is Dick Grayson, Batwoman is Barbara Gordon. That'd be interesting.
I would love to see that. And I'm not taking
I don't
credit
see
for
that.
idea.
I don't see that being the case. But
Neither do I.
but I mean, it's an
wish
interesting.
It would happen. I
it's
really
an interesting,
wish it would happen.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
I would not be against that by any stretch. That's interesting.
Yeah, but just the Birds. Just the with this open-endedness as well about the team, that was another cool concept for me. You could get such a wide variety of team-ups, and we need this person for this mission, this person for that mission, but you still had your core people who were always going to be there, who were always your trusted advisors. It's just I have to gush and I had to mention it, and she's definitely in there, and it's a sad day for me because I will miss this title. Mm-hmm. Now,
can I say before you jump on your next one, just because you mentioned the Batwoman thing, and I think it's an interesting topic. My one part where I'm like, I don't want to see that is I like Kathy Kane and her relationship with Renee Montoya.
Yeah, I know.
So that would be my one major roadblock. Wait a minute, no. So that's the part. And wait, I'm not saying that you started. I mean, just kind of like it's kind of me thinking it through, and I'm like, well, yeah, but
That's why I'm also full agreement with you. I like that
I know you
relationship. Yeah, I'd love to see that further and developed. And if it is Kathy Kane there, I want to see Renee with her. Yeah, I want to see those two
I do
together.
too.
So it's and it's one of those things where I want more Barbara. Yeah, I want to
I
see
do
her
too.
use, and I'm willing to take in any way, shape, or form as long as it is Barbara Gordon. Now, my next title was Green Lantern Corps, and as I said, I always lump Green Lantern together, and for me, the concept of the Corps is more important than an individual member. I love the intergalactic police force. I'm loving this intrigue they're doing with the, Guardians rewriting the Book of Oa. They're messing things up big time, and they don't realize they're doing it, or maybe they're being manipulated. Maybe there's outside influence.
They're over-controlling. No, they're over-controlling.
Yeah.
And anytime you do that, that's when you start making mistakes.
Right, and it's this growth that we're going to get, and there's going to be more coming down from the line. This is one of those things where, not everyone's saying, oh, Blackest Night. No, there's more than just coming down the line, Blackest Night. We're going to see a complete implosion of the Green Lantern Corps. And part of it is because the Guardians are over controlling. They're
Micromanaging.
They're micromanaging. They need to let this go a little bit. Yeah, some of the rewrites to the code I think are kind of nice. I do like the fact that, I do and don't like the fact they're able to kill. It's one of those things where a hero, I don't like heroes killing, but I understand police sometimes have to use lethal force. And I look at them as a police force.
What I love, though, is touching on that, is how well they've written that the Lanterns, some of them are having the same problem you're having.
Exactly.
And that's where it really works for me, is that some Lanterns would and some Lanterns wouldn't. You get into code of morality, how were you raised, what was your planet like, that type of thing. When you've got that many races involved, you're going to have people that are for it and against it because of religious background, because of your home planet, because of how you were raised. All kinds of different factors. Life experience would enter into whether or not you would agree or disagree with some of those codes. So that kind of intrigue for me, and personal intrigue in the whole Green Lantern mythos, has really been compelling.
Yeah, and just as you're saying, just the depth they're going into these different characters, and we're seeing their personalities. And even if they just introduce a Lantern for a story arc, we're getting them flushed out, like that married couple that have just been in this last story arc.
Because of the babies.
Yeah, because of the babies. And you see these people, and by the end of that arc, I know who they are. I know what they would do. I have an understanding how they would do it, why they would kill, why they wouldn't kill. And it's just, I love that about the Corps, about just the writing and just everything about it. That's why I'm like, yes, hoorah. Now,
I love the Tomasi love that we're getting on the show. Yeah. But Jeff Johns there too, because you're talking about how you lump those books together.
Oh yeah,
and I agree with you. The Jeff Johns solo series, even though it's not a team book, and I know it's kind of, but the way you rationalize lumping them together, it's an interesting time to talk about it. That solo series was outstanding this year. The Secret Origin, to me, that's how you do an origin if you're going to retell it. Add something to the mythos that you get a clear definition of who this character is at the core. You bring in all the important elements, but you also give us something storyline-wise that gets us excited to read more about the character beyond what we've already read in the past. And he did that with Secret Origin. I thought was just a fantastic arc over there. The stuff that's going on with the Blue Lantern in that book right now, I think, is a great Rage of the Red Lanterns, which you almost have to lump into your category right there, because it is part of the overall storytelling right now.
It's all golden, and it's all green.
Yeah, but this all is like a lead into the events that are going to lead to Blackest Night, and I'm Green Lantern happy at the moment.
Yeah, the interconnection of these titles are just, I want that, and I can't imagine. There may be people out there who are only reading one or the other. Personally, I could not imagine doing that. It just, for me, these are so interconnected. I could see picking up individual members of the Bat family, maybe. I can see that kind of.
Yeah.
But Corps, I couldn't. Corps and Green Lantern, I couldn't. And
well, your Robin is a great example of that. Robin, for the most part, you can really just read by itself and be done with it. And I mean, have a good time with that book. And Nightwing's been the same thing. You get enough of an indication as far as what's going on in the other titles. There was the Ra's al Ghul crossover. That was the most recent crossover.
Right.
Really, R.I.P. If you take a look at those issues, you could read those independently and get the Robin arc and the Nightwing arc were both by themselves. I kind of like that, actually. That was really kind of a cool part of it. But Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, while they do have independent arcs, the overall theme is so tied together that I I can't imagine there. I'd be interested in that in the forum. It'd be interesting to post if you are reading one or the other instead of both. I would love to hear that.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
And why?
Yeah.
Is it that you tried the other one and didn't like it, or just budget-wise you have to? Because that's always, you and I are kind of thrown out here. Some people don't have, they've got to pick. And if you got to pick, you got to pick. So it's going to be the reason. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail your thing. It was just, I know how you lumped it together like that, so I thought I wanted to talk about Hal's book because I love what Jeff Johns is doing there.
Next, Teen Titans. And Titans is usually one of my top of the stack. For a while there, when Jeff Johns left, I was a little bit worried about it.
Is that fallen 2 for you, you said?
What?
Is that 2 for you?
Yeah, this is number 2. This is number 2.
You had 4, right?
Right. This is no. Well, this is the third title I've talked about. So this is my number 2 spot.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay.
Because you have 4 total in there.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I'm following you.
Okay, just making sure. Sometimes you need a guidebook with me.
I love what you're doing jazz hands as you're doing it. and you're ducking and weaving like anybody can ever see it. Sometimes you need a guidebook for me and bob and weaving.
Yeah, Teen Titans.
I gotta just say, I sometimes wish this was a visual podcast.
Yeah, I know, sometimes.
Because if people would see some of the stuff that I see when we're doing this episodes, like literally you're bobbing and weaving there, like
hey.
I was gonna throw a shoe at you or something. Or
hey, I never know with you, man. Come on, let's be honest here. There are days when I'm wondering. I see you reaching for that Coke, and I'm thinking,
my life threatened?
Is he throwing that at me? Do I got to duck and cover? What's going on here?
If I stain the carpeting in any way, shape, or form, I'm a dead man.
Yeah. And also, I got some pretty cool things behind me, so I'm worried.
But those are the comics and everything are all in frames. So
Okay,
those wipe off.
You've thought about this.
Yes, I have.
For a second, it took me half a second to realize that, Jim, we have a problem.
I'm sorry, Teen Titans.
Teen Titans.
Yes.
I've raved about it, and it's one of those things where this was another title where once my latch on writer left, I was a little bit worried about it. And it might, kind of waned a little bit. But we got the current stuff going on with McKeever that has just skyrocketed this back up, on my list. It's back to my number 2 spot. It was 1. It's, it was around there, and now it's at 2 solid. Could very easily take over the number 1 spot from JSA. There's so much I'm looking forward to this with. We don't know who's going to be on the team. Tim, is off the team. Well, he's taking a leave of absence.
How much I loved that issue.
Yeah.
Because it really, to me, it was such an important. I'm glad that it took a whole issue and they really went through. McKeever was a master on that one because it set Wonder Girl in a very cool spot. But and I'm glad that they actually resolved all the Wonder Girl Wonder Girl's issues before doing that, and actually put her in, and did kind of a Nightwing thing with her, which I really enjoyed. But it really was, they set the book at a really nice spot for them to do this Robin issue where you explain how, because of R.I.P. and Battle for the Cowl, he has to be away for a little bit, permanently or whatever. He doesn't know, but right now he can't devote the time to because Gotham needs him. Batman's not there.
And I tell you, I ate it up, and it was one of those things where I'm like looking forward to seeing what are they going to do with Beetle there, what are they going to do with Red Devil, how much is Supergirl going to play out on the team, how much is what about is Rose ever going to come back, what about Bombshell? There's just all these things. What's going to happen here? What about this? It's that once again, it's that unknown that is just growing, and I'm like, and I trust in the writing, I trust in the artwork. I'm like, hey, you know what? This is Titan goodness. Titans together. It's hoorah. Yes. My number 1 title, for my team books was JSA. And it's funny because when I first started thinking about my listing, I was like, I knew JSA was in my top 3, and I started just breaking down how much of enjoyment. And I remember when JSA first, got relaunched, and I was reading it, and I listed JLA over JSA, and I'm like, true, it is. It's, you talk about JSA, you talk about family always, but for me, it's not just family. It's these mega powerful beings that have flaws, and they deal with their flaws, and they work together with their family to, better resolve their flaws, to be better heroes. And it's just that noblest of intentions, noblest of purposes that these people are leading, going, this is what it takes to be a hero. And this last story arc with the whole GOG thing where we saw what happens, when you get what you want, and, who's the hero? Who is the savior of this planet? Is it this, wish granting, with a price, or is it these heroes who are going to resist? Is it Damage whose face is scarred? Is it, what's going to happen? And it's that whole looking at them not as mega powerful beings, not as a strike force, not as a police force, but as your friends, as your guardians, as your mentors, as your inspiration. And for me, that is the JSA. They are the ones who, inspire us to do better and to look at life better and to ask where and how can I help. You need me, give me a call, I'm your backup. And
I liked the storylines this year so much in JSA that I bought it all in hardcover again. And I mean, really the reason why my intention would be then I would resell the issues at some point. I'll go through and do that. I have the whole series right now in hardcover and in the single issues. And the only reason why I haven't sold, I'm like, I'll wait a few more issues and then maybe I'll sell the entire John's run or something like that, because I have a funny feeling I'm going to want all of these in that form. But probably the most honest compliment I can give it is I don't want to wait to read it.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So, I can't wait for the hardcover to get here, but I want the hardcovers to be able to reread it. I went back and I bought the original series and I sold my issues. I wanted all of the original series in trade. So I went back and did that. And I can't recommend enough the first run. If you are a fan who's just getting into JSA for the first time, it's all been collected in trade. And it was this good all along. So if you're liking it now and you're like, geez, wow, this is one of my favorite books, go back and do yourself a favor and get the collected, and pick up one or two at a time or something like that. InStockTrades.com has. Do you even go back getting them?
I'm getting them.
Are you?
Here's what I do. I budget. I have a nice budget set up where every paycheck I set aside a little bit, and when I do my in-stock trade order for our trade of the month, I will order usually the in-stock trade of the month, maybe if there's another title I was looking at. Mm-hmm. But I do take it so it's over 50 so I get the free shipping.
Right.
And the JSA stuff are on my list.
So you're picking up gradual?
Yeah. Why the Last Man, those issues, 100 Bullets.
Did you get Preacher yet?
Preacher, yeah, I'm getting some Preacher. That's so I have like a rotation of different titles that I pull through in JSA. So eventually I will have all of the JSA in trade.
And it's worth it. It really is. It's one of those that for anybody that's like had it like on a lower spot on their stack of to-dos, you're probably going to want to bump a lot of other things to get this. Because it's been, honestly, if JSA is your top title right now for anybody listening right now, and you didn't read the first run, do yourself a favor and say, hey, this is my top title right now. I need to prioritize getting the back issues of this over other things that I'm picking up. Because it's that good. It really is. I'm sure it's going to be a big shock for you then. I broke mine down between ongoing team book and best new team book. Because it's funny how when you're sitting here saying, well, there was only 4 issues in and all that. I'm like, yeah, I had the same conundrum. Because really, when September kicked off and we got the first issue of Secret Six, I was like, it was Birds of Prey 2.0 for me without any chains. Everything I liked about Birds of Prey in theme. I'm not saying it's a clone. In theme, it was all back again. The art team was back, and the energy was back, and it was just wacky and out there. Everything I liked about the Secret Six miniseries. So I put that easily down as, we gush about Junior and all this, and I'm going to talk more about this later. Raging Oscars. So
I think I know where it's going to go.
So I'll just say right now that was my best new book. And I did an ongoing team book. And that's why I said at the beginning of this, I said there were some categories that I made up because it fit thematically what I was thinking. The first 4 issues of Secret Six have been so outstanding that I wanted to honor it as best new team book. I think it deserves to be there. Honestly, I'm just going to put down as best new book. It's the best new series that I'm reading right now. I'm really, really enjoying it. It just deserves to be as best new book in 2008.
And it's funny because, had I known you were going to do that title, that would have been mine as well. Because I had to find a reason not to have it in there.
But we didn't and just Jim and I didn't have any discussions. We kept very general when we talked about what we were going to put down. So you had no clue I did that. Other than that, I told you, I said I made up some new categories, but I didn't tell you what those were on any level. So it was interesting that when you were saying there was only 4 issues in, I had the same rationalization. That's what led to that. I'm like, well, it's 4 issues in, 4 great issues in. And it was, so that is my best new title right now. The best ongoing team book for me is JSA. This story, it just felt so epic, so big, so huge. Jeff Johns really, and Alex Ross and Peter Tomasi on some of the one-shots. That whole group, but it really is Jeff Johns. When you take a look at the whole year of Jeff Johns and what he's crafted. And well, you got to give Alex Ross credit for that too. I'm sorry, the writing with Alex Ross was this. It's been basically this whole year. It's been this whole GOG storyline has really just been. It's been 3 hardcovers worth of material that they've gotten out of there, and it's just been such a great ride, a great storyline. The handling of all these characters, that was something that Jeff Johns started right at the beginning of this, and my worry was, is it too many characters? How are you going to spotlight them? How are we going to get to know them the way that we did in the first run? As in the first run, that family feel you're talking about, the getting to know these characters and care about them, was something that that Jeff Johns was really a master of. And I'm like, are we going to lose that in this series because of how many people? And no, we did not. If anything, he's gotten better at it. This is just such a great series that it deserves a best ongoing team book. And Secret Six, ditto to your comments. I'm going to talk more about it later, so I'm going to just save that for then. But Secret Six is my best new book of 2008 because it's my favorite book right now, Secret Six. So, I have no doubt of saying that is my best new book of 2008 because it rose to the top of the stack. Where'd you go next?
Well, actually, I got some emails from some listeners.
Okay.
And as what we're doing, what I did is I contabulated the listings of what we had, and as their comments fit into our categories, I'm just going to throw them out there. So so you know.
And then just pull selected comments.
Yeah, because not everybody, there was people who they said, this was my favorite title, this is my favorite character, this is my favorite moment, like that. So there wasn't any really, they didn't do all the length that we did. There's a couple who did a lot of categories, and thank you, and whatever. And just we didn't really advertise this, so thank you to the people who sent it in. Just lock it in your memory when we do this next year. Feel free to send in your favorite, raging Oscars. These are the moments you rage about, the moments that you want to gush about. And we had a lot of.
Can I say one more thing before you start on that?
Okay.
And that's one of the things, after this episode, when you listen to it, please do yourself a favor and go to the forums and do us a favor. I want to know, what were you raging about? What were you geeking out about? It's not about contradicting each other or anything like that, and please don't turn this thread into that. I asked for that last year. All of these are personal decisions. There's nothing anybody's going to say to me that's going to make me change my mind about anything. So that's a pointless conversation. But I think it's also important for you to kind of go out and share what your thoughts were. Because honor the books, and that's what I want this to be in spirit. Honor the books that were your top books. Honor the creators that were your top creators. We had that last year. Except for, a few when it kicked off in the beginning, and then people got in the groove and they started following thematically that whole thing. And please put why as much as you can, because I geek out at that. I like to hear what reasons why. I like to read those. What is it that you're geeking out about and why? So if you could take time and put those in, even if it's just one book you want to talk about, or one creator, or one whatever, do that. I'm sorry, please go ahead, Jim.
Oh, no. And it's funny because they kind of agree with us on the JSA. JSA got a lot of strong votes. And, cool. As we said, a lot of comments we were throwing out there, there was a lot of echoes about family and just unity. And it was just this great cast of characters. Love seeing how they did, with just Wildcat and Cyclone and all these different, people. And it was just like the development of the characters within the title was kind of a gushing. And
it's a flagship book.
And there was a couple of people called the new series, anticipated title, and, well, they agree with us that Secret Six won the new title, anticipated, that, rewarded title. So, definitely we're getting some love there as well.
It's one twisted book.
One beautifully twisted book
yes.
that we have gushed multiple times on, and we will continue to gush about it. But next I went on to limited series. Now, what I did with limited series, I did this last year. I specified as a limited series that ended in 2008.
Okay.
So Final Crisis is not in this. Trinity is not in this. Just anything like that. If the final issue for the series wasn't in 2008, it wasn't included. And, the first thing, of course, I was thinking of was Countdown. And Countdown is one of those titles where, if you've been listening to me lately, I've been a little bit down on it. When we first started talking about it, I was gushing about it. There was a lot of Countdown love, and you even called me on it saying, hey, dude, when we talked about this before, you're kind of contradicting yourself. And you know what? You're right. I was. And I started thinking, why am I contradicting myself? And it's one of those things. I started just looking at Countdown, and part of it is there was so many things that I absolutely loved in it that were either twisted or turned or changed around. Like the Piper Trickster story. I so love that story. I can still sit down and read it. I would like to have just that story pulled from Countdown, and just so I can easily read that story again.
That was a fun buddy cop story.
That was a fun buddy cop, and just the ending of it, and you see Piper, just standing up there, just playing, his last sonnet, but he then survives in the end. I'm like, yeah, great, we're gonna get more Piper stories, and then it never happened until Rogue's Revenge happened, and he didn't even have like the major part in Rogue's Revenge. And I was like, and they kind of undid something. I'm like, wait.
I think we're gonna see more of him though when we get into Flash.
I hope so. And
they're trying to reestablish him again as a good guy in the good graces, though.
Yeah, I know, and it's like, but also other stuff like the Jimmy Olsen story. I hated Jimmy Olsen when it started. I loved Jimmy Olsen by the end, and then when he came back, when everything was done, we lost the Olsen bug. Granted, he's now stepping up again. We're seeing him knuckle up. We're seeing him do this investigation on his own, and he steps away from the planet, on Clark's suggestion, and we start seeing that coolness that was Jimmy Olsen in the series.
Can I ask you about that though? Did you take this as a contradiction? Because at the end, wait, no, let me. And I want your genuine comments on this, so I'm not like trying to contradict you. I guess here's the way I read that was they had the whole big adventure when he was in the midst of all of this intensity. But then when they got back to normal life, that relationship fell apart. When he had to go to day-to-day life, that relationship didn't work. That was kind of in the epilogue of it, which I took to then when we got back into the Superman titles, he was back into normal life. And then we get to see him step up again in the Superman titles during all. So I guess to me, it flows very nicely off of what was in Countdown. But please, give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts, because I'm not like trying to contradict you. Are you seeing it differently than I am?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I do see. It's one of those things where I see that, and it's part of my enjoyment of the current Olsen stuff, where I'm like, okay, he knows he can do this, so he's knuckling up again. Mm-hmm. He's standing up, but part of me,
when his friend needs him, I guess, is when he
actually is able to. And so that's where I was like, okay, yeah, I can still see, but it was just something like it kind of like dropped off a little bit, and I was just like, no, Olsen is a cool guy. I wanted to see more of the cool Olsen. I want to see, and so I'm kind of getting it, but I'm not getting it. I wanted,
So you don't think we're seeing him now?
Yes, we are, but we're not.
Really? That Jimmy Olsen special didn't?
Well, see, that's the thing. When we saw the Jimmy Olsen special, yeah, we saw that. And I was like, yeah,
but
I see him knuckling up.
We saw in Countdown at the end, when he got back into normal time, he kind of zips back into that Jimmy Olsen mold, which is why she left him.
Right. I kind of like Bebop a little bit. And it's...
see, I guess to me, I saw that as consistent with Countdown versus...
and
I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm just kind of throwing out there. It's interesting when you made that mention of it, how things were different for you. And I saw that being pretty consistent.
And like the Harley Holly thing.
That did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, God, that was just a great thing. They could have jumped right in, and it dropped. And it was all these things. And had I done my Raging Oscars right after Countdown, it would be the winner.
Right.
Flat out. And that's even why, because I still do defend that Countdown was a good series, and I will still say I enjoyed reading it. I'm glad I bought it, and I do disagree with anybody who says it's... Anytime someone uses like the complete and total failure, I argue with that. I will fight that tooth and nail.
Good story.
But it's not getting my Oscar,
right.
Because...
Harley, I do.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you, though. That just totally dropped, and I think there was a lot of potential there for that to be a very interesting mini-series, at least.
Yeah, and there's just like, but it's not, I'm not giving it the Oscar, but I did want to mention, I did want to still say I do enjoy it, even though sometimes you're going to hear, me a little bit down on it. It's because I got so much going on with what's still in play, what's not in play, and that kind of does take away from it for me.
So you liked the series itself, but it's the after effects, how it didn't play into it as nice as
that's the thing that is hurting
kind of clouding.
That is what's hurting me on my enjoyment of that.
Because the New God stuff, definitely there was a contradiction there.
Big time.
I think we're seeing some of that explained right now, and I'm hoping when we see the rebirth of the New Gods, we get even more
of an explanation. Yeah. So when I went with a limited series, I was looking at different ones, and there's a lot to choose from. And there's one limited series that when I read this thing, I so enjoyed current appearances of the character, and that's the Batgirl limited series. Now,
wow, yeah, that's a good one.
When she was in other titles and other things, I knew kind of about her. I knew her background a little bit. I wasn't really excited about seeing her in the book.
Did you read any of her solo book at all?
No. I never read any of her solo
'Cause I didn't remember time-wise when... Was her solo book out when we even started this? I don't think it was it?
No, I think it was done already.
Yeah.
You know, but so
Because I liked her solo series just as much.
And, it may be on my list for something to pick up.
Cool.
But it's, when I read this limited series, it helped me appreciate more of her stuff in Outsiders, in the Bat titles. I kind of got the groove of her. Plus, we got a limited series that has not only Rose, but also has Slade in it.
Yeah.
How can you go wrong with that? As well, and the Bat tie-ins and her connection, why she is being welcomed back into the Bat family. It's, I was like, okay,
I'm worried
this.
about her.
You're worried about her?
Well,
I'm not.
How does she fit? I'm worried about how she's going to fall into the way the Bat universe is being revamped.
Yeah, true. There could be some issues with that, but I'm thinking
I like
Outsiders.
her too. I like
I'm
her.
thinking she's going to be. She may not be a regular.
I don't think
character.
she's going to be on the Outsiders.
You don't think at all?
No, I think Huntress is supposed to be on the Outsiders. They're not going to put Batgirl and the Huntress on the same team. I don't think.
No, no, they wouldn't do that.
I think they're going more to classic Outsiders, but with a few different characters. I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't know. I hope I see her because I'm starting to like her and appreciate her. So I hope she's somewhere in the title.
I love her as a character.
I was thinking she was going to be in there just because there is a little bit of animosity between her and Dick. And there's that. And I'm thinking they're going to keep her around just for that. And just for that little grading type stuff.
And I think both are very in character with how that animosity works out. Was that your top miniseries?
Yeah, that was my top pick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you had a list of 3 or you're doing that. So it was
No, that was just the list of one.
My best miniseries. See, and last year I didn't go on the same parameters you did. My best miniseries was Trinity. For just the reasons why we've chatted about on the show, and we have. Actually, I want to talk about it more, and we're going to, I'm sure, over this month, go into it again. I literally think this is, and I've said this on the show multiple times, this is the backbone of the DC Universe. This is the one, I would have no hesitation handing this to somebody and saying, hey, you want to know about DC Comics? Read this. I think, it nails who Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, I'm getting all excited talking about this one. It's the backup stories, or the second stories, whatever you want to call them, and the foreground stories, and the way that they run together, and just the creative team on there. The artwork is stunning. The handling of the characters. Hawkman's great. The JSA characters are great. Your JLA characters. Even when the universe twists, they all seem to fit. I'm really enjoying right now as we're seeing heroes such as Dick Grayson and Donna Troy and Alfred and Supergirl start to have to try to dig back and get their memories again.
Yeah, they're starting to get their groove back and their mojo back. Yeah,
and it's just to me it's just great, a great spotlight on everybody. The artwork is always well put together. It's a great series. So my best miniseries of 2008 was clearly Trinity, but I didn't have that parameter that you had.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. If I didn't have my parameter, that would have won.
Yeah.
Hands down would have won without even batting an eye. But I did that last year, and I'm going to continue just doing that for me.
When I was doing miniseries as I was going through, I broke down 2 other categories that I did. Best crossover event, and then, because I just thought the crossover events are kind of different to me than miniseries in the sense that they can kind of they can be a miniseries related, they can be main title related, but they cross over between multiple books. So, and seeing as there were so many of them this year, like maybe I would have put that in as miniseries normally, but there was a lot of them this year when you think about it. And I had to really, go into your things like Final Crisis, your RIP, stuff that was going on in Green Lantern, Superman. There was a ton of stuff going on there. I started going through all of these different little events and saying, wow, what was my favorite? JSA had a crossover miniseries. Well, JSA I took out of the running because it was all pretty much so JSA contained. So that's where I started cutting it down. I'm like, all right, if it was contained in that title, it didn't fit in my crossover miniseries. So I narrowed it down to 2. Final Crisis and RIP. What do you think my answer was?
Well, the fact that you're asking me, I'm going to say it's going to go against you being a Bat guy and say Final Crisis.
Wrong. It was RIP.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you why. I have to include the support material such as Robin, Nightwing, Detective, Batman and the Outsiders into that mix. Because all of those titles reacting to the main events that were going in RIP are what put it over the edge for me. I love Final Crisis. I love all the tie-ins, everything we've talked about on the show. It's been great. When I was sitting there thinking about it, I'm like, RIP, what did I like so much about it? What was it that really drew me in? It wasn't just what was going on in RIP. It was that lead-in with Heart of Hush. and how it really kind of got back to the core of what made Hush cool. Because for a while he was a character very similar to what happened with Bane and why I'm enjoying Bane so much in Secret Six. He was a character that was rejuvenated with Deanie in Heart of Hush, and it was a cool Catwoman story. It was really great to see her and Bruce's relationship with her. It pulled at the heartstrings of that, and I am a sucker for that on every single level of that relationship. So that was great.
Heartstrings. Oh.
Yes. Well, I didn't mean it that way, but it was a groaning moment. I really didn't mean it that way.
I know.
We talked about Nightwing and Robin and how those support pieces gave us a glimpse. It wasn't until partway through that I recognized, wait a minute, these are occurring after. So we're already seeing what Gotham looks like after the fact. And I was so glad they did that because it gave both creative teams the opportunity to tell a nice, complete story that added some depth and growth to those characters without having to have them cross over into the main title and limiting those writers. That was a very good move. The art teams did a great job on that. It was just a great moment. Batman and the Outsiders is another great example because we got to see Batman put something in play to keep the Outsiders going in his absence. We saw something with Batgirl, as you were just mentioning, step up and have to really, in the face of the Outsiders who didn't necessarily trust her, had to take over the team to a certain extent and try to keep the Outsiders together in the midst of there being no Batman. And it was just those moments that really worked for me. So it's R.I.P. The whole event with the support pieces as well. For me, that added to that event and that whole thing because they were responding to the event versus having to be directly part 1 of 2, part 3 of 4, that type of thing. I really enjoyed that. And I don't always like that. Sometimes I like it to be directly kind of crisscrossing. But I don't think you always have to do it, and RIP is a great example of where it works better when you don't. Because I liked how the main RIP story handled and the support pieces were kind of their own things.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that part. And if I had to pick between RIP and Final Crisis, it would have been RIP. Yeah. For a lot what you're saying, it's I don't want to say I don't like. I do like when they have it named 1, 2, 1, 2, but I do appreciate more the open-ended like RIP was, where it's reactionary in the
New Krypton's a great example of where it's working.
Yeah.
The crisscross is working in New Krypton. I like the triangle numbering. I think Supergirl's a great piece in there. So I'm not saying that it didn't. Being the Batman guy.
It's tough.
Being the Batman guy that I am, though, it was RIP it nailed Batman and what I like about Batman so well. But not just what I like about Batman, what I like about Robin, what I like about Nightwing. I mean, these are characters I've read, Tim Drake since Lonely Place of Dying. When this character was launched, I have not stopped reading Tim Drake since then. So, I mean, he is still very much Tim Drake to me. Now he's been adopted, and he's a part of all this. He's a character I love and adore, and he's being handled so well. Nightwing, the same thing. I mentioned before, he's my number 1 B-list character right now because of the fact, and I hesitate to call him B-list because I agree he's at that cusp of where he could be an A-list character. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just kind of fits into that category. Batman and the Outsiders, it's a great series. I really enjoyed that run. I enjoyed what Chuck Dixon was doing when it kicked off. I enjoyed when it was taken over by Frank Thierry, and then we got to see all this stuff that worked into RIP. It was a fun series. So, and my honorable mention was Final Crisis because we've loved that. Nothing, this doesn't contradict anything I've said about Final Crisis. It's just that it was edged out by RIP. Go ahead. What did you have next?
Next we had single issue or one shot. Mm-hmm. And here's one of the things where, I have multiple things and I don't know really which one fits the spirit of this category.
It's whatever you make.
I know. Well, I still don't know what I'm making it because
Oh, I thought you were saying it in response to when you were talking about it. No. What do you think it was? No, it's
no. I still don't know.
You actually really are still trying to figure that out.
Because my first reaction, the very first thing that popped in my head when I said single issue or one shot, was Wonder Woman number 24. It's where Diana takes Tom to meet Hippolyta. That was just a great, wonderful issue. You laughed. You kind of it was the emotional thing. Mm-hmm. You saw Tom. It was just like that great just interaction. And it so fit the title. It so fit these characters. I said earlier when I was talking about just how cool, the Wonder Woman book is. It's stuff like this where there was no action sequence. There was no bam, biff, pow. It was a lot of dialogue, and it was a lot of this emotional stuff. We were getting into the person. We're seeing the kind of guy Tom was. It is tough to meet the mother of the woman you're courting, and
even harder when she's an Amazon queen.
Exactly. You're like, dude, this is a tough thing, and so I completely understood what the guy was going through. I felt for him, and I was like, yes, this is some cool stuff. Now because that was a single issue part of a story arc, I'm like, well, maybe I should look more like a traditional one-shot type thing. And the next thing that did pop in my head was Joker's Asylum, the Penguin issue specifically. Mm-hmm. And this was such a cool thing because it showed just how nasty the Penguin is. But not just nasty as in, no, he is the mob boss. He's the crime boss. And he has a guy killed simply because he laughed in the Penguin's presence. And maybe he laughed at me. Probably not, but who's to take the chance? And he destroys this guy's life over this, and he just calmly, kind of laughs about it when he sees that the dude killed himself. And I was just like, wow, this shows the cold, heartless, calculated, killer, but he also does have a little bit of a soft spot for the young lady, that he eventually sells. And it's this great villain. I was like, man, this is the character I want to see in a Bat movie. This is the character I want to see in the Bat title. Yeah, I like the fact that he's got the Iceberg Lounge. I like the whole Gotham Underground storyline they did and the story arc, the limited series they did. I thought that was a great usage of the Penguin. And
that was Criterion, and had some great Jim Calafiore art too.
Oh yeah, and I was just like, man, that's a cool thing. And this is one of those things that just stood out. And then I also kind of like thinking, well, there's, I'm kind of praising a villain here, so I don't know if I want that to be my one shot of the moment. So I started thinking of a true hero moment. What one shot for me had this epic, true heroic moment, and that has to be Requiem, where we see John fighting back. And the Final Crisis issue where he dies was such a whoa moment. And then you see that he didn't just go down. He went down swinging. He fought. He did not, and then you just see how he reached out with his mind. You see his friends reacting. You see this hero's funeral, and you're just like, yeah, if I was alive, I would be doing that. The stuff that Ollie was like, man, we're going to find him and we're going to get him. I would have been right along with them.
The Ollie moment was great there. I agree with you.
I would have
very
been with
classic
Ollie. I would have been going, man, we got to nail this guy. Let's find who did this. What can I do to help? And don't worry about your no-kill rule. I'll deal with that. I'm gonna let you keep your hands clean. I'll dirty my hands for this one because I ate that up. And then plus you get that tender, just real human moment from Bruce. When he leaves the one cookie on the cask.
With his. Again, he took the mask off, and it was important for him to take the mask off. That was a geek out Bruce moment for me, too, because it really showed an attention to understanding the character and the mask and how Bruce felt about John. Because when he takes the mask off, he's showing, I want to honor him at this moment for who he was. And those, because of Bruce and how he's wired and how often we see this, dark, distant person that he is, those moments where a writer knows when to let the mask down a little bit, I think makes Bruce such a compelling character at those points. And that was really just great Bruce writing at that point. I loved that.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Interesting. It was funny. It's you and I, we approach this differently I force myself to pick one. Mainly because I like to show people that, I love my comics when I open my box, and I genuinely do, from top to the bottom of the stack, have a great time. But there's a big difference between books that are like, gush-worthy and enjoyable reads. And there is a hierarchy. So I do try to, when we do stuff like this, put things into a number order, or for the Raging Oscars, I really tried, and this isn't any way in commentary on what you did, it's commentary on why I did what I did. I like that we did it differently, actually, because I think it's more interesting, the trade-off and exchange between the two of us, because it's so different. So it's not a negative on you, it's more of an explanation on me. The Joker hardcover, for me, was my single-issue one-shot. The breathtaking breathtaking. The writing by Brian Azzarello was great. The artwork by Lee Ramo. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name. Whatever. That artwork in that was just visually. It looked like just a canvas painting. You take this twisted character, and they crafted something so well that it got to such the core of the Joker. I bought it from a friend of mine who's a casual Batman fan who watched the movie. He read it cover to cover. He's read Batman for years. I got him Killing Joke too. But you put this beside Killing Joke, and it's easily the same twisted freak. What I liked the moments, though, with the main character and the Joker, where you got to see the Joker let his hair down as much as the Joker ever is going to, where you saw the two actually become friends and kind of connect. But you knew at any point in time this guy's going to die.
Yeah, he had a red shirt on. He knew it.
But it was so nice that during the time this guy thought, and he was rightfully so, he actually got to the Joker and became friends with the Joker. And you could almost see why would people team up with the Joker? Why would they be in his gang? And he is one of those personalities that he's so intense and so wild that if you're on that side of the law, he would be fun to hang with. And he would be the guy that would get you noticed. And when you'd walk in, you'd feel like, hey, I'm with the Joker. I'm part of the big leagues and all that. And look at this guy. He's taking the time to talk to me about my situation. And really, he thought that he could handle the Joker. He thought that until, he got reality shoved in his face as it went along. It was such a great ride. At the end of the whole thing, I was like, did this really have this page count? Because it moved very fast for me. And I mean that as nothing but a compliment. It was incredible writing, great pacing. It was like one of those movies where you've watched it for 3 hours, but it feels like an hour. You're like, wait, where's more?
I know. Yeah.
I would have read this as an ongoing.
And it's funny because you mentioned that, and I gave with that one a guy I work with. He reads and he collects comics, and he was thinking about getting the Joker, and he's like, I told him, dude, I gave you a guarantee, pick it up, you'll love it. If not, I'll buy it off you.
Yeah, and I had no hesitation.
I had no hesitation to do that because I knew you put it in the hands of someone who one, loves the movie, they're going to love it. Two, loves the Joker, loves Batman, they're going to love it. So and
it wasn't written in any way to be tied to the movie. But I do think for a fan who watched the movie, if you got friends of yours there's friends of mine right now who I know have never read a Batman comic, but really love Dark Knight, I would hand it to them in an instant, and they would have a good time with this book. And I know it wasn't written in response to that; it was written before it, so it's not in any way commentary on that. But it just works really well as a good Joker story a great Joker story. I'm sorry, because it deserves to be in this spot. I was so giddy for Batman this year, and it felt so good to be that way. Because last year when we did this, I was in a very different place. So it was really nice that this year it was I was noticing that as a trend. I was getting more into it. And this year it really is nice to have this character and this character's universe so much my top tier. I was more last year into his supporting cast, Nightwing and Robin, which I still am for the same reasons. They're just as compelling. But Bruce is my guy. So to be able to put those other people ahead of him means that I'm not enjoying Bruce as much. If I can put Bruce ahead of those characters, it means that Bruce's book is, get it up there. So it's one of those things it's not an insult anyway to those books. It's just, I need Batman where he is. Best characters?
Yeah, I did best character, male, female.
Okay.
And what a surprise. I did this last year, and I continued on my theme with,
sure.
I broke it down like best male character with character development, character usage, then just the overall coolness factor. Yeah, I did that for male and female. Character male development. This was a weird one where I wanted to say the guys of Secret Six, because we saw them before, but we're seeing them get a little bit fleshed out more. We're getting Catman. We're seeing a little bit more of Laughlin. We're definitely seeing the Bane get fleshed out. And I originally had Junior in, but
category it, or that's Evil Pat technically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's. But yeah, so there's definitely you're seeing these characters that one you kind of knew, but you're seeing more another side to them. So in a way, that is character development. Now, I didn't want to just have because they are villains, and it's hard for me to put them in such the sole category. So I did look at like a hero male character that I felt did some really growth and development, and that is Blue Beetle.
Ooh.
Because he had already growth on his own. But you see throughout this past year, he did, he got part of the whole border patrol. He didn't want, thing. He got into the Titans. You see his posse, kind of grow and develop, and they get their own little relationships going on. It's one of those titles where I wish I had talked about Blue Beetle more when we were doing the show, when it was still around, because I'm like thinking in my head, maybe someone would have picked it up. Maybe enough people would have read it and told their friends, and would have grown on their own.
Can I say something about that, though? With that being collected, and this month there is another Blue Beetle trade solicited.
Right.
For anybody, if you missed that book, do yourself a favor. It's being solicited in trades, and a lot of time, if you didn't jump on it because of budget and things like that, but you have a trade budget where you pick up one trade a month or something like that. Because my trade budget isn't unlimited. I have to pick and choose, and there's sometimes things on the show where I'll say, I'll look at 4 or 5 different trades, and I'll say, ooh, I can't do that this month because I typically go for my single issues first, and then I have a certain budget afterwards where I have to look at and say, okay, this is my hardcover and trade budget. And a lot of my leaning will go towards what's 50% off, what's 75% off that I desperately want. And then I'll put things in my shopping cart, and then I'll go back through and say, okay, I got to cut this down by this amount, and I'll finagle ways to do that in order to get it. That's how I do that. But Blue Beetle solicited, and you get a discount from dcbservice.com. And I'm only saying that because if you haven't read this series, go to instocktrades.com or dcbservice.com, wherever, grab your book, pick it up, try the first trade. It's a cool series. It's a cool
definitely.
Character.
Yeah, pick it up, read it, you'll enjoy it. Man.
Or watch Brave and the Bold. I know that next week's episode is Blue Beetle, Ted Cord, and Blue Beetle Jaime.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
So it's going to be a little bit of both in that one. So if you want to get the flavor, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know how you felt about that first Brave and the Bold episode with Blue Beetle. That's a pretty dead-on characterization.
Yeah, that was spot on. And he even had the Beetle team there.
Yeah, so check him out for free on TV. Yeah.
Next, it's character usage, and this is kind of like the stuff they've done outside throughout the DCU. And this is one where I based a lot of it on Trinity. His usage in Trinity, and as well as his own title in the JSA and Ran Thanagar War. Of course, I am talking Hawkman. Yeah, I am a Hawkamaniac, and it was Trinity that really just showed me that he is a cool guy. This is a cool character. I'm looking forward to his solo. Coming back, and I'm looking forward to, seeing it. And I like the characterization of seeing this guy who, he is a learned scholar. He is the archaeologist, but he is the tank. He is the brute. When you get him riled up, you get him fighting, he's going to throw down. He's going to throw down hard.
And that sometimes becomes a difficulty for him, which I like that kind of flaw about him, too, that there is his emotions, he's so emotionally driven that he'll sometimes, his romantic emotions will sometimes get carried away. His physical emotions get carried away. I think it's what makes him such a compelling character. You're like, Garner, pull it back a little bit, dude. And he's very human. He's very accessible. I love that you're finally getting this character.
Yeah. Now, my overall coolness, I don't think it was a surprise to anybody. It was Robin. But here's the thing. It kind of was unfair on this title, so I looked at who my second place person was.
How was it unfair?
Because I don't know, because I've been gushing about him, and I'm going to keep gushing.
Can I say something though? Here's where I don't think it's unfair. I think when you list something in a category, I think you need to list what is your top. No, and I know you're doing that, so I'm just saying that. I think you need to list your top one because it lets people know that the quality has maintained. Whereas, Robin could have a bad year. Let's say next year isn't such a great year for Tim Drake, where you're all of a sudden, because, they're obviously going in a very different direction with Tim Wayne. What that's going to be, we don't know. Is he going to be Robin still? How's that going to work with Battle? What's that going to look like? You may feel differently next year. You may feel like, wow, they've continued the development, look how outstanding it is, and you still feel that. I think it's important to note that because it lets people know the quality. Because remember, we've gone through, there's 2 different writers this year for you than you had the year before.
Right.
So I think it is important to note that you still feel the character's just as cool as you did. I think that's a statement.
Yeah, and that's why I do mention that it is. But I figured instead of me just continuing gushing about Tim, I wanted to talk about
the only issue I had was when you were using the word unfair because I'm like, no, you're really shortchanging it. It's a cool statement about the character that you still feel that way because there's been times remember last year. I wasn't as Batman. I'm talking about the main Bruce Wayne character. I wasn't as Bruce Wayne happy as I am this year. So I think it's important to note Bruce Wayne is my all-time favorite character in comics. So this year that he's up there, it says something, whereas last year I had a very different opinion on that. So I just thought it was interesting that you 2 years in a row were able to bring Robin in. You still feel that same way. That's a testament to the creative teams working on him this year. So I think it's kind of the point of this whole thing. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail. I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, okay, and I agree with you, yeah. My number 2 spot, though, I did want to mention, and it's Nightwing. As overall coolness. And this is a character that, when you were talking about his title being your top B-list title, I'm like sitting there nodding going, yeah, that's why I picked him. When I say second, I do mean a close second. Mm-hmm. There were times when I was like, Nightwing's a really cool guy. I'm digging this. It's, he is respected among the DCU. He is his own hero. And when we talk about Battle for the Cowl, yes, Gotham needs a Batman, but I do like how he's not just jumping into the cowl. He is Nightwing. He is responding to Commissioner Gordon. He is doing his own thing. If he makes a mistake, he learns from it and he grows from it. And this is the character. He's a cool guy. And also, Dick Grayson is a neat guy. And I like seeing that in his title. Seeing him as the curator in that castle. And then as he had to leave the castle to come back to Gotham, but there's still parts of that guy. And yeah, he's a cool dude. I'd hang with him.
I did the best male character. I just did like I did last year. I did the single character, and I did Batman. It was, for me, Batman was the one. Obviously, honorable mention is going to go to Hawkman. For a lot of the reasons you said that you were a Hawkamaniac this year. His appearances have been stellar. But Bruce overtook him this year.
Yeah, and I can see that.
It just really, this is a banner year for Batman. And Trinity is one of the titles that Bruce, I thought, was great in Trinity. I've loved Bruce in JLA, Bruce in Batman and Superman. Superman Batman, I should say. I've been really enjoying that title. It's just been a great year for Batman. Batman and the Outsiders. That book has been, I think, stellar. So he's one of those characters that his appearances this year have been really, really enjoying. And Batman Gotham After Midnight, the series with Kelly Jones art, I'm really enjoying a great deal. And that's another one that's Batman. Just when he appears, I've been really liking his appearances this year. So Batman,
cool.
But agreeing with your Hawkamaniac commentary.
Now with a female character, did the exact same layout. Development, usage, and coolness. Now development, my last year winner was Cyclone, and I still like seeing the growth of this character. Just like with how I said Robin with coolness, Cyclone is still a character that is developing. We saw her in the Kingdom Come, her dealing with the Kingdom Come Superman. We see this, this young innocent who looks at things differently, who handles the situation differently, but she is a hero, and we're seeing her throw down a little bit more. That the one scene from the Justice Society when they're fighting, Gog, and the rocks are about to crush Wildcat. She comes in with the tornado and stops it. We're seeing the hero flesh out, and I'm like seeing that. I want to see more of her. She's a limited series I would buy. She's a character that I would, you know what? Yeah, I could dig with this, and she is just that, developing, ongoing developing, and also there was a close tie on the ongoing developing, and that was Supergirl. Because we've seen a dramatic change in Supergirl. We've seen her, as we say, embrace the red S on her chest.
She's super cool right now. I really like Supergirl.
That's why I couldn't completely give it to Cyclone, and I couldn't take it away from her because she's a cool development. But also, Supergirl's got this really nice growth going on. It's with the whole Kryptonian story, currently and going forward, this is going to be a character to see what happens with her and where she goes.
Definitely a character to watch in 2009.
Oh yeah, big time. Now, with my character usage and coolness, I kept flip-flopping back and forth between each of them. So I just picked one for each title. It could flip-flop either way because they're equally both cool, and they're both being used wonderfully. And they are Wonder Woman and Black Canary. Both are incredibly strong characters. Both, when they're used, they're shown they have their leadership skills. They're shown to see their Amazonian code. It's whether we see them in Trinity, whether we see them JLA, whether we see them in Black Canary's own title with Green Arrow. You're seeing this really cool person. Same thing with Wonder Woman. Whenever she appears somewhere else, she is Wonder Woman. When you see her in Trinity, she is, of the Trinity, my favorite member of the Trinity in that title. I love how they're writing her. I love what we're seeing from her, and as well as with
her interactions between
Yeah.
Superman and Batman and what she adds to their interactions, I think, is compelling.
Yeah, and it's I know with each character, these are heroes. I've said this a couple times, and I'm going to continue reiterating it. These are not female heroes; these are heroes. I would, these are people, if I was in trouble, I would want them to help me out. I would have no remorse, no hesitation, or feel like I was any less of a man if they came to my rescue, because they know what they're doing. They're the best at what they do, if you will. Let me steal that from Marvel. But yeah, it's really just, these great, cool characters that I love seeing in other titles, and I want to keep seeing more of. That's part of the reason with Birds of Prey. I know, Dinah wasn't exactly on the team, but those issues where she came back and it was her and Oracle, I was just like, oh man,
which is such a blatant nod to the longtime fans, and that's how they're wrapping up the series.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just
that's important.
I so wish,
because I read those issues when it was just the two of them.
Yeah, and I just so wish that they would continue on with those two, because you got that great dynamics. Now, Barbara and Helena have a cool dynamic. I like that, but there is something more between her and Black Canary.
Barbara and Helena, what I like about it is it feels like Black Canary and Oracle did in the beginning, where it could get to that point. You never read? I don't think you read the early issues of Birds of Prey, did you?
I've picked up since Gail Simone wrote.
They have the first trade. If you ever want to check it out, it's the early stuff.
Okay.
Where you can see the Chuck Dixon stuff in the beginning, and you'll actually see that there's a lot of interesting parallels to the relationship because of the fact that Barbara has gradually learned to trust Helena as much as she did Dinah, but they still don't have the length of the history. So it's an interesting argument that those two might eventually become just as good of friends.
Cool.
So it was interesting to see that. My number one was Wonder Woman. Just her appearances in her own title, Trinity, JLA. I'm really loving what the McDuffie's doing with her in JLA. She's one of those characters, and I had a tough time between her and Dinah Lance because Black Canary has been such a great character this year, and her leadership of the JLA. I went on a tirade last episode defending her and telling her she'll fire the three of them. So I mean, it was one of those things where it was, and that when you get that emotionally charged into characters that don't really exist, it's a testament to the writing of those characters that you really are into the character and buying into their role and where they're at that point. That I was so thinking beyond the pages that we were having that debate. So Black Canary, I agree with you 100%. Wonder Woman, though, this year has been so cool. And I'm talking about her own title, Trinity, JLA. Every appearance of this character, I agree with you. She's just a cool character. The Kingdom issue with her, where there was her and the Kingdom Comes Superman. That to me was just a wonderful usage of Wonder Woman. How she added something, and what I liked about it is it pulled in her history with Max Lord and what she did there, and how she's at a place now where she can not defend that, but she can talk about that and talk about how she's grown since then and utilize what she's learned about herself because of that horrible mistake to better the Kingdom Come Superman and explain, what it's like as a warrior having to deal with that and her own mistakes. It was cool. It was just really good stuff. It was a great year of Wonder Woman. Had a very tough time because I agree with you. Dinah Lance could have easily been interchangeable. Wonder Woman won by a smidge. Just a smidge, and that's just because I think Dinah has been developed so well over the years that she had a banner year. I think writers really get what to do with her right now. I would love I almost say I would love a Black Canary solo series, but we got Green Arrow, Black Canary, and it makes how could she have solo adventures when she's doing everything she's doing with Holly? The new writer of Green Arrow, Black Canary has really grasped. We haven't seen much. We've seen only the one issue. But the year ended off with a really great issue with Green Arrow and Black Canary showcasing her as well in that title. So I'm really got my confidence is very high. I can't wait for issue 16.
Yeah. Well, here's a little side tangent for you.
Sure.
The argument we had, the discussion, argument, whatever you want to call it, about whether Black Canary should kick the Trinity.
We're not starting that up again, are we?
No. I'm just to show you how psychotic I am.
Okay.
This is another one of those, just to see how psychotic Jim is. I bothered, and I do admit I bothered several of my people I work with.
You almost said your employees.
I almost said employees. Well, they're not my employees, but they're KeyBank employees. It's my coworkers. That was the word I was looking for.
My peeps.
My peeps. And I bothered them with, I told them what had happened. I laid out the scenario, and I got their opinion. I wanted to get their opinion on, whether she should fire, all three of them. And now these are, investigators. They are a lot of them are former police officers, some former federal agents, and I got to tell you, they mostly agreed with me on this one, dude. They sided with me.
It's because they're wrong. It's because they're wrong, and we'll see it in writing.
But also, though, I do want to say we got some stuff from some of the listeners. And
I like how you said you weren't starting this up again.
What? I didn't. No. Raging Oscar stuff from listeners.
No. I'm talking about, though, I love how you said you weren't starting this up again. You throw that out there, which is really bait for me. I'm being incredibly restrained that I'm not going there.
I'm just throwing that out there. It's not like I'm trying to goad you into another fight. Jeez.
Did you let them read the issues?
No, I explained it accurately.
Who explained it? James? Or
Actually,
because I take issue with who explained it.
I am known at work as James.
Right.
Most of them call me James. So
right.
So James is very analytical.
I would have preferred the Sensei of the Whatnot explained it.
Hey.
Because there was no emotion behind it then, obviously, James.
Well, you need that. You need the logic behind it. Okay. But we did, getting back to the Raging Oscars, we did get a lot of contributions. And, I was really glad to see Supergirl got some love. Green Arrow, Black Canary got. Booster Gold got a lot of love. People are liking the series as well.
Booster's a great character.
Yeah, it's a great character, and there's some love going that way, of course.
Can I say something about Booster, seeing as you went there with it? It's funny. It's one of those characters that I don't mention as much as I'd like to, but it's only because there's so many good books being published that I love Booster Gold. It's a great series. I love the time travel aspect of it and all that. It's just a wonderful book. I'm curious to see when Dan Jurgens takes over what that, where it's going to go. Because, he's going to have a long-term plan for the character and what he's going to do with him. Do you think any of this craziness is going to be touched on by Booster? Because he's really outside of time. But
they got to have some type of connection.
With these echoes, it'd be interesting to see if he does anything with Final Crisis or...
there's got to be something.
Yeah, because time's being distorted here, so wouldn't that maybe on some level affect him? I don't know. I'd be curious to see. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Booster Gold.
Yeah, so, Booster got a lot of love in there. And, of course, the Trinity, was thrown out there. This one, really, I didn't have any clear, solid winner. There was a lot of votes going around. So, just,
that's a great example, though, of what I was talking about earlier, that we don't all have to agree.
Yeah.
This is about celebrating the characters and creators and books and things that you really enjoyed this year. So when you do that on the forum, please don't worry about whether or not we agree or disagree. Don't worry if you're the only one throwing out something, or if you're jumping on the bandwagon of something else that somebody else is throwing out because you just agree with them. When you go to present in the forum, please present anything you want to present as far as what you were raging about this year because of that. I'm actually kind of glad to see that people are, because I think different writers and different characters provide different things to the needs of different people. We're all different personality-wise. So we've got, great Mr. Chibi from the forum. Great example of a guy who Blue Beetle being canceled has got to be, just horrible for him.
Yeah, it's got to be killing him.
If Batman was canceled for me. So, that's a character who he loves, adores as a character. So, I think that there's characters that people connect with that they'll make avatars for, that they're linked with, and celebrate that. So Chibi, please share with us Booster Gold. Blue Beetle. Why Blue Beetle was your book this year? I'd love to see that on the forum. That's the type of thing that I'm looking for spinning out of this. I know I keep going off on that tangent, but it's kind of the theme. Yeah. It's kind of the theme of this whole thing. Why we even bother doing this? I'd like that to be the theme of this particular episode of our show every year when we do it.
Okay, next writers.
You want go ahead?
Yeah, I'll go on first. Now, my favorite writer is going to be a real surprise to anybody. So before I go into the wonder and amazement of Gail Simone, I do have to mention a couple of different people. Of course, Jeff Johns, Fabian Nicieza, Sean McKeever, Peter Tomasi. If I had to, and it's funny because if I had to pick a writer who I would say had the best year, it would have to be Sir Jeff Johns. And I do say Sir because he was knighted in the court of awesomeness. Okay, that was bad.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
That one's too easy.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I like to work for it.
Okay. You're not going to hit that lob.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Not only, for me, not only does he put the dun-da-da in the comics, but, he just does some masterpiece of woven of continuity and story arcs, developments, and just, it is just this really cool thing to see. And, it's one of those things where why I like comics, is, some of his writing. I like the hero aspect of it. I like the overall story arcs of it. And you see all the different titles he's working on, and it really does. I'm impressed that he can work so many different titles. He knows what's going on in them. He, has this game plan, his follow through. The dude's got to be Mr. Johnny Organized, because there's no way. I have a hard time just living my one life and, doing these organizations for this show. He's got to have so many things going out there that I'm
and he's doing television.
Yeah.
And working on things like the DC MMO he's doing some writing for. I mean, writers impress me when they get involved in other projects and things like that, how they can find the time to do that, because you figure you've got to spend a certain amount of time generating ideas and frameworks for what you're going to do, and then you have to actually sit down and write it. It's not enough to think of the idea, you have to sit down and write what that's going to look like. So, to me, it's impressive for anybody that's writing more than one title or doing more than one medium, where you're involved, because video games, and it was amazing this year, video games and video game tie-in movies and things like that. Like Gray and Palmiotti, they wrote the script for Mortal Kombat versus the DC Universe, but they also wrote the script for the Dead Space movie, the video game movie. It was an actual full-blown animated film that was like a prequel to the game, which at the end I was like, wow, no wonder why I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's just an interesting little... But these writers are doing other things outside of comics. We don't always know that. It isn't always... I wish we knew more of the things that the writers were doing outside of comics, because it makes sense with them working in this kind of visual medium that they would bleed over into things like video games, television, and movies.
Yeah.
Jeff Johns is a great example of that, though, because he was writing the Legion episode this year while it was going on as well. So when you honor him, I thought it was worth noting.
Yeah, and
there was a point to that.
I know, and I agree with you. Yeah. And as I said, Fabian Easy, we talked about him, how he jumped into Robin, and he just made it his own. And I'm just I'm loving it, and I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the future, because there's still going to be greatness with Robin coming down the pipeline. Sean McKeever, he saved Titans for me. There was a period where it started lagging, and he jumped in, he embraced it, and just now, you have those moments in there that I'm like, yes, this is the Titans. This is who, this is my team. This is what I want. And, thank you. And, of course, Peter Tomasi, what he did with Nightwing. What you're talking about Nightwing. What we talked about Nightwing. It's got to be recognized. It's got to be said.
You are so me right now when we do top bullets.
I know.
I'm laughing. I deliberately kept myself concise. I'm loving it, and I'm not knocking you in any way, shape, or form. Actually, I'm loving that you were so motivated that you wanted to make sure you said this, because as you're saying it, I'm like, hey, I agree with him. I agree with him. So I am not mocking you in any way, shape, or form. I'm just loving the role reversal.
Yeah. Now, of course, as I said, my favorite writer is Gail Simone. She, we've gushed so many times about her that sometimes I do worry that people may think I don't want to say question sincerity, or just they're wondering, are you just being a fanboy? No, this is an honest and just respect for the skill.
Can I say something about that real quick? It was funny. It was one of the reasons early on we did the show, we actually refused to do interviews. We actually cut back. I remember there were creators where we said, hey, we don't do interviews because of the fact that we're positive and we enjoy our comics and all that, and we really don't want to be... We don't want to feel like we have to say negative things just for the sake of saying them. We want to say them just when we genuinely feel them, and we want to focus on the enjoyment that we're truly having for comics, because that's generally how we feel. We actually avoided doing interviews because we were afraid of that.
Yeah.
So I think, but you know what I realized? We got to a certain point in the show where people kind of got that we are just that. We are fanboys, and I don't care. I wear it like a badge. Wait, this is the hobby that led to that. So what the heck's wrong with being one? It really is kind of like, we're the kids on the playground that are empowered. I do look at it that way now, and it is kind of, so we're kind of like a badge. I actually, because you brought it up, I wasn't even going to go there, but because you mentioned it, it is kind of interesting to talk about how the show's changed. We're close to our 150th episode, and at this point, we hit a point where we started doing interviews, And it's not the focus of our show. It's obviously celebrating the books is the thing that we do here. But when we bring on creators for interviews, we kind of do what we do when we gush about their books. We talk to them the same way that we would always have wanted to talk to them. And just share, hey, this is great, and this is why. And then we learn from them through those conversations. It ends up being more of a fanboy conversation at that point, and I kind of like doing that. So I think people get that at this point.
Yeah,
because honestly, if we had Jeff Johns right now, we'd be gushing about him just as much, but it wouldn't have changed who I picked.
Right, yeah, so...
That's not an insult to that. For me, Jeff Johns had a banner year. Grant Morrison had a banner year. Jeff Johns was my runner-up. I'll just say it now because a lot of the conversation that we're having kind of leads into mine, and obviously mine was Gail as well. I was very hard on her.
Really?
Because deliberately I was like, I voted for her last year. It's why remember when you were saying with Robin?
Yeah, I know.
That's part of the reason why I went there, because I thought that same way with her. I'm like, well, I picked her last year. Everyone's going to assume I picked her and all that. But I went through and I looked at her books, and I was like looking at, well, Wonder Woman was out for the first half of the year, and it really was. I really, really liked Wonder Woman, but look at all the titles that Jeff Johns had and all that. And then I'm like, well, okay, I've got to get into, if I had to cut down to 5 books, and I'm like, well, geez, when Secret Six came out, it's like it balanced out Gail's thing. And I mean, I'll talk more about it when I get into mine, so I don't want to derail yours. But it really was, I went through a similar conversation with myself, and I'll talk about it when I get to mine. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut into yours, but it was interesting when you brought up that little bit at the beginning about how you were afraid of people doing that. I used to be. I'm not anymore. People can go listen to the beginning of the show when we refused to have creators on to know that we did it because we wanted to say how we genuinely feel without having to worry about that. At this point in time, I don't care. And we are fanboys, and I don't, for people who really understand us know that we back it up with evidence anyway. So there you go.
Okay, as I was saying,
ditto on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't even know where I was, but yeah,
you were just getting started on it, and you made the statement that I didn't want people to think that. That's where you were at.
Right, I know.
Just trying to bring you
thank
back.
You. Hey, thank you. I'm back.
Here for you.
I'm in the groove.
You said you didn't know where you're at. You're in the office here.
Okay.
Magic.
Thanks. As I said, she's a character. She's a creator that her skills I respect and admire. This is she is someone that it's that blend of humor. It's a blend of action. It's the character development. There's just so much that we continue gushing about. And I was going to continue out. I was saying yes, I am a fanboy, and you know what? I honestly wear that with the badge of honor. Yeah. Just like before, you used to say a geek was a bad thing. No, a geek is a good thing. And I am a comic book geek. I'm a podcasting geek. I wear those badges with honor.
They call themselves the speakers of the geek.
Right.
And that's because, they're wearing that like a badge. And I agree with them on that. I think that the term is something that we do wear. And I'm glad you said that, because that's the fanboy thing. What?
I know.
This is the hobby that bred that.
Yeah, and if you can't get passionate, if you can't get emotional about this stuff, then you're like, why are you reading it? I tell you why I'm reading it. This is my escape. This is my release. This is my entertainment. This isn't a cheap hobby. This can be very costly. You think about, look at how much you spend over time. But you know what? If you get that rush, if you get that emotional enjoyment, if you get that connection, you got to go with it, and you got to embrace it. And when I was looking at as I said, that whole James thing I was going to do, part of it was because I have such an emotional connection. I have such just to a lot of these picks that there are people they're going to look at.
You needed James to be objective.
Yes, I needed James to be objective, and I'm going to further throw myself under the bus here. That little bit I did in the beginning with Jeff Johns about James. Sir Jeff Johns.
Yes.
That was going to be James saying Sir Jeff Johns, and then it was going to be the sensei jumping in.
Oh, we're seeing some of the missing James footage right now.
I'm throwing myself under it. And you see why I didn't do it, because how bad that bombed.
I would have loved it.
I know.
I would have had a field day with you. You saved yourself. You have no idea. I would have tortured you.
That's one of the things. I have the ability to recognize when something is really bad.
I would have been smiling from ear to ear the entire show. You would have been weeping openly. So you are obviously. I'm probably part of the reason why you didn't do it.
Yes. And to wrap up, just the wrap up my comments. As I said, Wonder Woman almost beat Robin, and Robin is my go-to guy. And the reason Robin beat out Wonder Woman in the title was because of the fact that Tim is dealing with all the stuff from R.I.P. Well, now we're seeing in Wonder Woman she's dealing with the Olympian. She's dealing with genocide. We're seeing all this type of reaction from the characters around her. And right now looking at it, I could see Wonder Woman actually taking Robin over the next year. It all depends on what's going to happen in Battle for the Cowl. It's going to happen if there is a Robin title out there. What's going to happen, because it is technically getting canceled. Now, there's probably something coming in its place, but who knows what would happen?
Because that title wasn't canceled because of sales.
Right. So it's, so who knows what's going to happen?
This is all story.
This is all, so it's, this is, as I said, this is my geekness, this is my fanboyness, this is, my pick, this is my Oscar.
Gail Simone, if you haven't listened to the show before, I adore the work of Gail Simone. When we did our first episodes in the beginning, when we were going through 1 year later, I remember chastising you for not reading Birds of Prey. I said, "You're not reading that?" And it was at the time where it was just her first issue of Birds of Prey, which she kicked on right away in that first issue. I connected immediately to it. I liked it so much that I sought out her Deadpool work, Simpsons comics. I started about Gus Beezer, the Sexy Chicks anthology. Yes, I like saying it. All New Adam. Gen 13, we followed through Tranquility, Rose and Thorn, the miniseries. I mean, it's just anything that has her name on it, I just follow. And, that's a testament of a great writer when, that the writer's connected with you when you do that. Okay, at the start of this year, there's Wonder Woman. Great run on this book. Really got to sink her teeth into Diana, give, us a ton of what was cool about this character. Secret Six. You think you understood villains? Well, I'm going to make your toes curl. Before Secret Six came out, I was really flip-flopped on this. My runner-up, Jeff Johns, was the one I was leaning more towards. And it was really, because of balance. Because it didn't matter to me if Secret Six or Wonder Woman came out first. It's when both of these titles are running that you really get to see what a master of the art that Gail Simone is. You get to see two very different titles that she's working on and get to see how she really keeps those titles. There's nothing cookie cutter about these two. There's something very special and very unique. She's taking an iconic character like Diana and doing her thing. But when you see, her handle these things, best writers give us something unexpected with that iconic character. The lasso, Evil Pat, a.k.a. Genocide. But really, if you're in the know and all, it's really Evil Pat. The relationship with Etta Candy, her mother, the Circle, Tom. She adds to the mythos. She leaves a mystery such as Sergeant Steele, which is still looming over us. You gotta love the gorillas in the apartment, but what works is within that humor you get this honorable guerrilla warrior race. So it's a joke, sure, but never taken too far that you lose just how cool these characters are, and that there is something strong and that they offer to and the respect that they give to Diana. That those were moments that it was really an important balance for me in what she does. This book is a foundation piece of why I'm so into Diana right now. Now, here's where I get to the balance. The gloves were off when Secret Six came out. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. All right, my thinking's totally changed a different direction. I'm getting to see again what I like so much about her is when she's got a couple titles going, you get to see her doing all kinds of different crazy things. Great character. She adds 3 dimensions to villains without us losing that they are in fact villains and mercenaries. It's an important line. Sure, they are bad guys, but we also see that they aren't as black and white as all that. Certain things they have done bother them, yet for various reasons and for personal reasons for each one, they need to stay on that side. Jeanette, fun exploration of a character. I want to know more about her. Junior's easily the new villain of the year. If I had to cut down to 5 books, Wonder Woman and Secret Six for me would be 2 of those spots, which honestly means I've only got 3 left. I have no hesitation saying that those titles would firmly be in there. I like them that much. And that's one of those reasons. It's classic and iconic mixed with what the hell is she going to do next? And I mean, that's what I like about them, though, because the 2 different titles, it really would have been, if Secret Six had come out first, I would have been having the same conundrum where I would have been like, okay, I'm really, really loving Secret Six. It's my favorite book right now, but, look at what Jeff Johns is doing over here. Then Wonder Woman came out, and I've got that, and I'm like, wow, that kicked it over the edge. For me, it was Wonder Woman was out, loving it. Great title. Everything we've said about Wonder Woman, I totally stand behind. When Secret Six came out, it kicked it over the edge for me. It really was. It was funny how much that title coming out and having both of those going reminded me of what I liked when we had Gen 13 running alongside All New Adam. and Welcome to Tranquility. There's a certain thing that when she's got all that going, that's when my respect level kicks up, because I'm like, wow, these titles feel very, very different, yet both of them are just as... They're exciting me and making me laugh and smile, and she has this way of putting humor in, which, as you can tell from the show, I love to laugh, but does it in such a way that we don't ruin that. Now, if I could talk real quick about my runner-up, Jeff Johns, because my respect level for Jeff Johns and what he brings to the table is huge and through the roof. I did a main person and a runner-up, and I really want to try to stick to that when I do these, because I want people to see that there's a hierarchy for me, and I loved your gush, because everybody you were saying, I'm like, yes, Jim's so dead on, all that, I agree. Jeff Johns and what he brings to the DC Universe, and what he does in so many titles, and how all of them are so consistently good. He is a guy, all you have to do is tell me Jeff Johns wrote this, I will pick it up. I was excited to watch the Legion episode of Smallville because Jeff Johns penned it. I already love Smallville, but this one in particular, I rushed to watch. Usually when my wife and I didn't get to watch it on Thursday because we were at my dad's celebrating my birthday. We came home really late, I didn't have a chance to watch it. When I came home from work on Friday, I literally begged and pleaded with my wife. I said, we normally watch The Office first, then I watch Smallville. I said, honey, please, can we watch Smallville? I said, it's this Legion episode, I really want to see it. She sat there and watched it with me. God love her. But she does watch Smallville with me, though. I take it back. I don't want to make it seem like she doesn't. She actually really likes Smallville. But this episode, she was into. She watched it, too. And it was, I think that's a good, accessible episode. But what he did with the Legion there was great. I am so excited to see Legion of Three Worlds, how it ends. I'm hoping he's the one writing Adventure Comics, because I would love to see what he does with the Legion after this, because I'm loving what he's done with them so far in the Action Comics run in this. Green Lantern, I can't comment enough on how much I enjoyed Secret Origins. Based on Secret Origins, I have no hesitation that I'm going to love Superman Secret Origins and what he's going to do with that, because I just think that's, this Flash Rebirth is, to me, one of the must-read titles coming out this year. Action Comics is great. Booster Gold was great, because Booster Gold finished off with him this year, which I really enjoyed. JSA, reason why that was my favorite team book. It really, all 12 issues delivered this year. It's just a great series. There's nothing the man produces I don't find intensely enjoyable. So it's not an insult to Jeff Johns. It's a compliment to Gail Simone on how much I really enjoy her stuff. It was funny. I got to the point where I'm sitting there saying, I'm being too harsh. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm really, because of the fact that I picked her last year, and because of the fact that I chat with her, I'm like nailing her on this one. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm not going to give her a fair chance. But you know what the funny part is? I was doing that and she still was winning. Which is a testament to the quality of the work. I was going through and looking through issues. I looked through every issue of Secret Six, every single page, looking for moments. I looked through all the issues of Wonder Woman that came out this year, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like, can I pick her? And I'm like, well, yeah, because and I picked out more, the Wonder Woman moments we gushed about this year with her relationship with Tom, and the things we learned about the lasso. And I really loved that story where she was in the barbarian world, and we got to see the fantasy artwork that was in there.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, Aaron Lopresti nailed that. I'm a big fantasy fan in general. I saw Neil Gaiman's Stardust. Did you ever see the movie Stardust? Did you ever read Stardust?
No.
I finally got to see the movie, and to see, to enjoy that, and to enjoy, a lot of films that are being released like that, like Lord of the Rings and things like that, and then to see that artwork come to life in Wonder Woman, but then to see Wonder Woman fit into a space scene as well was really cool, because, she fits so well. It's a character that really just seems to work anywhere you put her. And that's one of the things that I really like about it. She's just one of those characters that seems to go anywhere. So I don't know. I mean, I have no hesitation making that my favorite writer this year. And I'd love to see what other people's favorite writers are. How many of you agree with us that like Gail? How many of you like, other people are your favorite writer? I want to see that. You have actually, I'm sorry,
I do have.
Who were some of the mentions?
Well, the winner hands down was Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
Overwhelmingly won. Tomasi, Gail Simone got some love.
Did Tomasi? That's really good.
Yeah, Tomasi did get some love.
You know what? I think he had a great year.
And the Tomasi love was towards Nightwing and stuff like that.
Good.
And it's just, there was, he got some. Let's see, who else? Yeah, those were like really the top ones of the writers. But yeah, Jeff Johns really just I wasn't even halfway done contabulating, and he had won. So it's a lot of the same comments about Action Comics, JSA, Booster Gold. What more can you say? Come on, and it's
great books. I agree.
Oh yeah.
It is all about what you connect with, though. I think we all have personal favorite artists and writers and things like that because they say something to us. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Now, art, your favorite
artist?
Yeah, artist. Any of the art issues, are the art categories are very tough for me because I am a writer focused, and it's hard for me to really judge and comment on it, and just I know what I like, and it's hard for me to articulate, a lot of times with art teams, especially the inking and the coloring and the lettering and all that type of stuff. It is very hard for me. Now, there are many artists out there that, I enjoy, and time again, I know if I pick up their book, I know I'm going to enjoy it.
Cool.
Mike Norton, Amanda Connor, Ed Benes, Dale Eaglesham, Tony Daniel, Aaron Lepresti, Ethan Van Sciver, Jamal Eigel, all wonderful creators, and, but I'm not going to just say those are all my number 3 spot. I'm going to pick one of those people to be my number 3 spot. And, of course, my number 3 spot would go to... Okay, now on to my number 2 spot. No, I really could not pick a number 3 spot. I listed all the art. What I did was I listed all the books, then I listed all the artists who are the primarily for that. And I'm like... And I was like,
I get that.
It was tough. I literally enjoy all their artwork. You put one book. Oh, this is my favorite. Oh, this is, and it's so.
You know what the funny part is?
Hard.
I did the same thing I did with Best Artist. I did a Best Artist and a runner-up, and I found when I started trying to go beyond that I started doing just what you did.
Yeah.
Because I like so much. One of my joys of comics, and I think you're getting to this point now too, is I like so much of the diverse art styles that every unique artist brings to the table that it's a pleasure for me every month to read my stack and see what different artists are doing and different takes on characters and how they kind of make things their own, while at the same time sticking to the core of what makes a character look great in the scenes and setting. So when you did that, I was like sitting here, I'm like, no, I get that. I totally get that. I loved what you did because I was like, I was sitting here, I'm like, ditto. I'm with you. I can see that.
But I do have a definite number 2 and number 1 spot.
Who's number 2?
Number 2 is Nicola Scott.
Ooh.
I'm really just, I fell in love with her work on Birds of Prey, and it just continued on the greatness in Secret Six. She is still the artist that I went out and I bought 2 issues of a comic just for the sole purpose of one for my collection and one so I could take it apart and make a poster of it. That Secret Six versus Birds of Prey. That 2-page spread, I... just so I can have that because I enjoyed it so much. So it's, and it's continuing on. Just part of my Secret Six enjoyment is the visual aspect of it. You get some great facial expressions, some great just overall artwork. As I said, I was looking at that whole Nocturne, the casino itself. And part of it I was looking at, I wonder where on the strip this is located, and
that's cool.
I'm like,
that's
I think
cool.
this is probably right where MGM Grand is. This is the MGM Grand, and that kind of stuff, just laying out where I think it would be on the strip. So, it's one of those things where if the artwork really even takes me out of it, I got to go with it. Now, my number 1 is the same as last year. This is, Freddie Williams is my favorite artist. He is my Robin artist. He is my Robin guy. And I still say to this day, I would love for him to go back through, redo all the previous Robin issues, just so I could have his artwork on it. Now, I'm not knocking the previous artists, because there were some really good arts.
Sure.
I just still... he's got the vision I want. And when he left to go to Flash, I jumped on the Flash, and I did Happy Dance when he came back to Robin. And it was cool because when he came back to Robin, you can see a maturity in the artwork. And I'm not saying that he wasn't a mature artist before. It was like an intensity, a focus. There was like just, he's back. And he was like, you could see he was loving
with
what
him.
he
We
was
said
doing.
that, though, and I really meant it. I saw there's an energy that came off the page.
Yeah, that energy, and just, you see that.
He's trying to say something new.
Yeah, and it's, it's still the great, still just that, really great Robin art, still the coolness that I loved about it, but there was just something more. So I was like, yeah, I loved it. And it just got kicked up a notch.
We're seeing a lot of that with Mike Norton right now in Green Arrow. Green Arrow, Black Canary, we're seeing Mike Norton's... there's a new writer, so he's taking this opportunity to kind of reinvigorate and try something new with Green Arrow. There's a maturity in the artwork there. So which I think is very pleasing. It's just interesting. I connected that right now. I think Jamal's work on Supergirl is a great example of...
big time.
He's making a statement on Supergirl on some things. So I like seeing artists when they kind of grow over time. I did... penciler and inker together. And the main reason why I did that is, first of all, I am not good at separating penciling from inking by any stretch. I'm not an artist. And I really found that when the pencilers and when the penciler and inker are working on full thrusters together, there's something special. There's a creative team there that I really enjoy and I find pleasing. I'm going to start first with my runner-up for Best Artist because up until September, this was definitely who it was going to be, and I'm talking about Dale Eaglesham on JSA. The consistency of the work on Dale, really this whole run, Dale Eaglesham and Nathan Massengill and Ree Jose on the inking, just really have done a great job of delivering a team that looks really sharp. The characters are dynamic, the scenes are great, the backgrounds are great. It feels like a top-tier flagship grade A book. There's everything about this book that, I mean, when I buy a hardcover of a book, it's because of the artwork in most cases. Because of the fact that I'm going to reread it and look at the artwork over and over again, and I want to see them on that crisp, clear pages. There's the writing aspect of it, but that's usually the writing is what brings me to buying the issue to reading it. The artwork is what makes me do a rebuy very often. Very often. In some cases, there's definitely writing reasons why I'll repick up the Birds of Prey run, for example. I have all of that collected, but that's a great example of that. But the artwork is usually, especially with a hardcover purchase, even when you go into an like I would buy an absolute JSA for Dale Eaglesham art. So that's probably the most sincere compliment I can give for that. Then in September, Secret Six came out. And I loved Nicholas Scott's work on Birds of Prey. And I enjoyed it all the way through to the end of the run. It was great. There was energy there. The work she was doing with Doug Hazelwood was great. Not a problem with it. It was my runner-up spot. What did they do when they hit issue 1 of Secret Six? They talk about maturity. Wow. There's stuff going on in that book where I'm looking at the issues. I'm like, whoa. Is she glad to be working with Gale again or what? Because I'm like, give me a hardcover collection of this already, please.
Definitely.
I want, because her artwork I love. Nicholas Scott, I'm a huge fan. I want a commission from her. I want to get one eventually down the road because I'm a fan of her artwork. Last year she was my number 1 top tier, and this year genuinely she was going to be my runner up. She was still there. That same thing that I said about her last year. It was just Dale Eaglesham was hitting such a home run with JSA that I was like, wow, look at what Dale's doing, and then all of a sudden Secret Six came out. And I'm like, I was in. I locked. I was done. But then it wasn't just one issue. It was issue 2, issue 3, issue 4. Then I looked back and re-looked at the Birds of Prey run. And I'm like, wow, it's been here all along. Those are great issues of the issue with Misfit and Black Alice. Oh, yeah. This is a great looking issue. So I'm not kidding. I went back and re-looked at all this stuff, and I'm like, oh man, did she have a banner year or what? And I got to give props to Doug Hazelwood. This is just quality stuff that I've just been thoroughly enjoying. So Nicholas Scott rocks my world. Secret Six is just.
I know. And we get some stuff from listeners as well about. And this was another one where we really didn't have a solid, clear winner. This was, its art is very subjective, and we had a lot of people throwing out who they liked, who they wanted, what was some really cool stuff.
Well, and please praise your favorite artist.
Yes, yeah. Freddie got some love. Nicola Scott got some love. Ethan Van Sciver, Jamal got some love.
Great?
Yeah. We had, Dan Jurgens got some love out there. Amanda Connor. There's just Tony Daniel, Alex Ross, who is somebody I didn't mention. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. His work, is some great stuff out there. There's,
Amanda Connor on that great Terra series.
It's. Yeah, definitely. There's such a wide variety that I couldn't lock down one thing even with my most advanced contabulation. So there's definitely a lot of love out there. So that's something if you guys want to jump on the forums, throw out your love. Who's your favorite artist? What are you loving? Why are you loving? What's this? What's your your rage about?
Best colorist? Did you have anybody?
Well, actually, let me just quickly end Inker.
Sorry, go ahead.
Comment. I didn't pick an inker. Okay. I'm still fuzzy on inkers. This year what I'm doing is I'm taking my favorite penciler and I'm looking at the inkers who's going along with them. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned Doug Hazelwood with Secret Six. So it's, I'm seeing...
And it's always Doug Hazelwood with Nicholas Scott. So
right,
I'm like, well, it's this a partnership that I'm really enjoying. That's one of the things. I went back through and I looked and I paid attention to... I looked at the issues for great example. This would be Dale Eaglesham. I looked back through in the issues with Dale Eaglesham, and I noticed the inking with Nathan Massengill and Rui Jose. I liked them both. I thought they were both I thought it was great. It's a compliment to both inkers that they complemented him so well that they just all worked well together. That's why I noted both of them under inker when I was doing that, because I couldn't really separate. I thought that they both did a fantastic job of inking. So it was great. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
Oh no, and
it kind of fit where you were going.
Yeah, and
with
it's
this.
exactly. So I don't have an answer for this one yet, but this is something I'm trying to build up. So next year I will hopefully have a comment on inker. So colorist. This is another one where I was driving myself nuts trying to, come up with a name. And
this may be the toughest category for me.
And here's the thing: the problem I have with this is I'm not comfortable saying that I think something is the best, because I really don't recall anything that I said I think this is bad. So if you don't really have a measure for bad, it's hard to come up with the best. There's creators out there there's colorists out there that I love their work. Art Lyon, love his work. Moose Bowman, Guy Major, Rod Rios, Niai Rufino. These are all just colors. Whenever I see their work, I know I'm going to love it. I know it's gonna pop on the scene.
There's very little we think is bad anyway, though.
Right, and it's hard.
Do we have something? Do you have something you think is bad?
I've never seen a colorist that I thought was bad
Neither
color
did I.
job.
Yeah.
And same thing with inker. I've never had a time where I thought, wow, that's a really bad inking job.
What about writer?
I think I probably had some writers where I was like, I didn't like the way they went with this, or that type of stuff. But even then, I could probably find
it's
something.
Very small.
Yeah, I could find something that I liked about it.
Right.
So it's hard for me to see the negative. And
I was just wondering. I thought it interesting that you said, because I don't have a bad, I can't do a measuring stick. Because for me, I run into the position where my worst comic is an enjoyable comic that I probably won't read again. So that's not a bad comic for me. That's an enjoyable comic. So I tend to make my measuring stick. The enjoyable comic is my bottom tier, and there's a lot of comics that fall into the enjoyable category, in the sense that I'm glad I picked them up, had a good time reading them. I probably won't reread them again. So I do have a hierarchy. It's just, I mean, sure, if something was bad, it would fall below that, but nothing hits that category for me, so... there's certainly room to go below my enjoyable category, but it does nothing.
See, I do have a bad writer that I can compare off of, and that would be my own writing skills. So yeah, I do have just that
God,
the
you
bad
and me
side.
both. Yeah.
So yeah, I do know what bad writing is. So that's how I can measure finding good stuff. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no. But with coloring though, there was one colorist that every time I saw it, I'm like, okay, I remember saying, yeah, I really like that. Yeah, I really like that. And so I figured I'm going to go with Hi-Fi. For my colorist, because they did a lot of stuff of the Green Lantern stuff, which I really enjoyed. They did a lot of the did they do JSA? I'm drawing a blank right now.
I don't know at the top of my head.
I kept
I think so.
I believe so, but I'm now drawing a complete blank, and I apologize for that. But it's...
I'm not writing your write-ups.
Oh, okay.
Just neatly, I'm sorry.
So I'm just going to end it there and say, yes, I went with Hi-Fi.
That's cool. This one is a tough category for me, and I want to thank the colorists that have come on our show, because I do find them constantly being educated on what coloring is, what it brings to the comics. My appreciation since we've done this podcast of coloring and what goes into it and how much it brings to my artwork is one of those things that I've really found to be a treasure in this show. Last year, my pick was Art Lyon, because that issue stood out for me so much with that compelling, claustrophobic issue with Vixen and Red Arrow. And that, to me, was it's just breathtaking, where the colors, to me, added to this sense of enclosure. And Art's working off of Gene Ha, who was just such a brilliant artist. It just worked for me on so many levels. My best colorist this year, really, I had a runner-up and a best colorist. It was Jason Wright, who is on Secret Six. And the flashback sequence involving Tarantula was the real winner for me. The way that felt so film noir, and how it was so set aside from the main thing that was going on, and how it almost felt very film reel in its presentation and the way it looked, to me, that I just thought was just, wow, it was just really a breathtaking sequence of events. I really liked that issue. It stood out for me as one that I'm like, ooh, added something a little more to me. So it was really that issue in general that set it over the edge for me, that it was Jason Wright. I also want to talk about my runner-up, who was Alan Pasalacqua on Trinity. I want to say first that it isn't again, like you were saying before, it isn't just that he's been on the show. We've got friends of the show who I adore, and it's all very genuine. But I'm spotlighting this because to coordinate such a wide variety of art styles each month, keep a consistent look and tone, is really an amazing statement to Alan and the art teams that he works with. I think Trinity's second stories have been just as beautiful and consistent and vibrant as the main stories. With Worlds of Magic involved, we see these rich-looking colors, locations, and visual effects that are coming off of Trinity every single week. And Alan's just nailing it on this one, and he colors a mighty good Hawkman. I love the new outfit and the look and everything like that. It's great. But the whole cast of characters, Trinity has been a home run hit, and I really thought I would be leaning more towards the Mark Bagley stuff and that whole in the beginning, not knocking that in any way, shape, or form. That's stellar, but I'm just as intrigued by what goes on in the back, and I really do think a hat needs to be tipped to Alan Pasalacqua and how he's keeping that looking consistent, as well as the art team he's working with. That second story, I have to look at the people who are doing the artwork a lot of times to remember that, wait, we're switching and there is definite differences in the art. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to knock that or anything, but what he's doing there is just, it's very consistent, and it's great, and it's a lot of fun, and to do that in a weekly book the way that he is, hats off to him. It's really just it's looking great. Best editor?
Yeah, I got actually editor this year.
Okay.
And it was funny because I'm still learning what they're doing. And I'm not an expert by any means, but there was a lot of editors that I noticed. These are consistently people who are on titles I'm enjoying. Like Nachi Castro, Sean Ryan, Matt Idelson, Mike Martz, Carlin and Garretlin. They're doing some really cool stuff, and I'm really enjoying what I'm getting at. And I know the editor has to have something to do with this. It's not just the creator. They're kind of the glue, that are holding the title together, and that's my take on it. But I went with the Midge goes to Eddie Berganza and Adam Schlagman, and the main reason I gave them. I'm giving them their thing is because of that whole JLA 27 and 28. We're mid-story arc, 2-issue split, different art team on each issue. And I did not notice a change in art team until I was prepping my notes. For me, I'm like, that is just so kudos to an editorial team that they can, make sure that there's a nice flow through. And after I held the 2 issues next to each other, I could see it. But when I was reading them, when I got it, there was no Jerry, no Garing, and I was going to go with Trinity, just because, as you said, there's such great connections with the front and back. It's constantly changing up art teams. Yes, they're different art teams, but it's never really anything too psychotic that you're going, oh my God, what's this? It's a beautiful flow through. But I don't know. I just figured I'd go with them for this one.
My best editor was Matt Idelson. The Superman family of books saw a great creative team take over with Supergirl, Action, and Superman, and that really was wow. When that kicked off, I got more excited. I was really enjoying everything that was going beforehand, but when these kicked off, there was an energy there. Supergirl, especially for me, kicked up a notch, especially because of all that. I love New Krypton. Wonder Woman and Secret Six, both edited by Matt Idelson. It's just great creative teams, great books, and those are really the books that drew me to Matt Idelson on this one. I was just taking a look at it, but it was the Superman family of books. I am Superman happy in a way that I haven't been in a long, long time. I misrepresent myself on the show a lot of time. I've been reading Superman consistently since the 70s. I've had broken runs here and there, but especially I remember when in the 80s Byrne took over and did Man of Steel. I read all of that straight on through, and he's a character who I really enjoy. Out of the two, Batman's my guy. There's no. So I mean, you're clearly more of the Superman guy, but I don't want to make it seem. I love Clark. Clark's a great character. I've the TV shows, I've got all of them. The movies, I've got all of them. I'm a Superman fan. I am a Superman fan, and when this hit, it was like, ooh, it's the best of Superman. We get these great stories that bring in his whole mythos and do all that, and I've always liked the bulleted numbering. I liked when they did it previously. I like when they do it here. I think that when there's a storytelling reason and creators want to do it, and there's a desire, which there clearly is here, a desire to do it, you get great stories. I like the idea there's a 3-year plan, that these things that they're doing aren't arbitrary changes and arbitrary risks they're taking that don't have any payoff. Because we talked a little bit about when we were in Final Crisis, talking about how, we did Trials of Shazam for Freddy. Where are we going to see some of that? There's a definite, something that happens in New Krypton is going to play immediately into the Superman titles, and then we're going to see payoffs, and we're going to see that continue on into the next arc, and then the next arc is going to pay off into the following one. There's a long-term plan for this stuff. Nothing is being done for quick shock value. It's all being done for storytelling purposes down the road. It's a great usage of these teams, and I just, as an editor, I think you made it, there's some good editorial choices going on with the Superman books, Wonder Woman, and Secret Six right now that, to me, I think have made those books interesting and exciting to the point where I grab Superman books and gravitate towards them in a way that I haven't in a while. And it's been like that consistently on this action run, but there's an energy there now. I like what James Robinson's doing now. The Crypto issue in itself was, for me, one of the most stellar, showcases of that particular character that I've seen. I was so Crypto happy. I would absolute solo Crypto. Let's go ahead and go with that right now off of this issue. I could, read a whole entire Crypto series. It was, that's the type of stuff that gets me jazzed. Did you have best moment of the year? Did you do one of those?
Oh, yeah, I did. And I was, thinking about, last year, I said I wanted to keep it a positive moment, and I continue that with this one. But it was funny because when I first did think of moment of the year, I did think of the execution of Martian Manhunter. But for me, that was more of a whoa kind of moment, not a hoorah kind of moment. So then I started thinking, okay, I need a...
You kind of really dislike a character to make that your hoorah moment.
Yeah, I know.
It's about time.
Yeah, get that
Nail that Martian. Skewer him. Yeah, you gotta really dislike a character. Been waiting for that since the Silver Age.
Yeah, so then I was thinking, yeah, no problem. Then I was thinking, what could be a real hoorah moment in 2008? And I was like, okay, could it finally be seeing Hawkman call for backup in JLA 28? Could that be my hoorah moment? Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I consider that more of a great moment in Whatnot as opposed to a great moment in history.
I was going to say, if you pick that one, you clearly have issues.
Oh, yeah.
That you've had since for close to 150 episodes.
No, I don't have that many issues.
You held out of that too long.
Yeah. Now, my true hoorah moment for 2008, and I will tell you this, when I read this, when the issue first came out, I put down the book, said, that's my moment of 2008. Okay. Right then and there, I had it locked in from that moment, and I never let on, and probably people won't be surprised by this. And that's, of course, Superman number 80, the Superman speech. Can you hear me, Metropolis? Can you hear me? You want to cheer a hero? This is a hero. He's my dog, and you know what? Now he's your dog, too. Hoorah, baby. I was digging that.
So like a true leader, he was commanding the attention of the entire city. And
like a reluctant leader.
How is that reluctant? He didn't go skirk off into the corner. He got into people's faces. I'm reluctant about that. That's a great moment. Now, all kidding aside, that speech was great.
And it's funny because I do mention how I had it locked in at that point in time because I did have a lot of people.
We all want to be Crypto though for Superman.
With the listeners, we did get that moment a
really?
lot from people that was the moment of the year for them. And I even had a couple people send me emails. Hey, what was your moment of the year? And I'm like, well, I'm still thinking about my idea. I replied back saying, I don't know yet. I'm still looking at everything, trying to figure it out. And I even tried to, when we did the JLA thing, where I kept talking about how that moment of Hawkman, because I wanted people to think that was going to be my moment of the year. And I was trying to tease and whatnot.
That was James teasing again, wasn't it?
Maybe. A lot of that bit was, supposed to be James and whatnot going back and forth. Damn,
James.
You really just,
Aren't you glad you didn't do that?
Oh, God, yeah.
I would have eaten you alive. I'm not letting it go now, and you didn't even do it. Best moment of the year for me, Ambush Bug returns. This series not only pokes fun at the events of the DC Universe, but is also satire on fandom, the internet, and the inner workings of the company. Keith Giffen and Robert Loren Fleming have crafted such a wonderful series that really pokes fun at everything and everyone, and that is the joy of it. Ambush Bug is one of those breathy fresh air of books that remind me that this hobby is supposed to be fun, and that should always be the main focus. It's not only a spoof on comics, but everything and everyone surrounding them, including us, and that works. Oh, it's very smart writing. Each issue really makes me think. It's the kind of insanity that if you're missing, you need to jump on board this one. The stuff with the monitors is great. Argyle. What is he not going to touch in this one? He's the different planets that he's going to escape all of this nonsense. It's great. It's great. It's a great read. I look forward to it. I hope that this series is doing well enough and that both writers are interested in doing another one, next year or something, because I would love to see more of this. There's so much you could rip on.
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, and it's a fun story. It's a great read. Did you have anything else for DC Universe? Because I got a couple other things that I wanted to touch real quick. I had a best build-up of the year, which is another category. I told you I had a few extra ones. Blackest Night. We've been given little bits of info here and there, but Johns and Van Sciver are going to do a home run hit with this one. I'm salivating over Flash Rebirth, but my eyes are very pointed at the Blackest Night event. It's really cool how the Sinestro Court was so awesome, and I got a funny feeling this is going to be a Kick It to 11 event. I'm already predicting that it will be my favorite event of 2009, because just the little things with each of the lanterns and all that stuff that's been going on, Blue Lantern, Red Lantern, Yellow Lanterns, all this stuff, teases of Orange Lantern artwork that I'm seeing out there. It's just, this stuff, I'm so excited to learn more about it. Blackest Night for me, my eyes are directly focused on that event. I think it's going to be cool. I have a favorite classic collection, because I've been collecting a number of classic comics this year, and this one sneaked in at the end. DC Universe illustrated by Neil Adams. I couldn't put this baby down, and I'm actually started rereading it. They capture some of Neil's early work, including some really cool Titan stories featuring Nick Cardy. The whole book feels very remastered and high quality, with a heavy focus on showcasing the artwork that influenced and changed so much of the direction of DC at the time. With commentary by Neil Adams and others, this book has very high production values, with stories featuring the Teen Titans, Superman, Elongated Man, the War Heroes, and more. Some of Neil's breakdowns are in this one. This is the first of 2 volumes, and I can't recommend it enough if you're a fan of great artwork. I have the 3 Batman illustrated by Neil Adams volumes, and I'm really glad that they launched this series to showcase his other DC Universe work. I have a trend I want to see more of. DC and multimedia, from iTunes motion comics to video games. I loved Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. Anxious for that Batman Arkham Asylum game, which looks great using the Unreal Engine, and the DC Universe MMO. Cartoons such as Brave and the Bold, Smallville, films such as the Dark Knight movie. Direct-to-DVD releases. I'm excited for the coming up Wonder Woman one, but the ones that have been released so far I've been really enjoying. The New Frontier was... Oof.
I know, we gushed about that one. That was a great thing.
Yeah, so that's, those are the kind of trends. These are great characters, and I think that multimedia opens it up. And we'll talk more. I almost said the Johnny DC line there, but we're going to talk about that. So it was one of those things that was great. Interesting, it was a great year, and those are just some things that we didn't have them as normal categories, and I just because it fit. Interesting trends to continue. I do encourage all of you, please go to our forum and don't make it about disagreeing, because it's not the point of all this. The point is, what do you like? What were you raging about this year? If you disagree, show it by telling what you did like and why. Make that the focus, because to spend a whole thread telling why, well, I disagree with you because I didn't think this moment was great or anything like that, defeats the purpose of this. This is about your chance to get out there what you liked. So to share it by telling us why you liked what you liked. Don't waste your breath on because you're not going to change my mind, so it's kind of pointless. And I know yours isn't going to change either. So
yeah, we're set here.
So just tell us why you're set and what you're set on, and make that the theme of your post. Because I want to see that. I want to know why. I want to get what you got out of your books. And that's what I like about when people share those things. I want to see it the way you did and be able to pull some of that into my own reading enjoyment. That's what I get a kick out of. So
Rage on, Bulleteers.
Absolutely.
Rage on.
You filthy criminals.
Due to our crazy schedules this week, mine especially, Jim and I weren't able to get together to record, but I really wanted to get some of the listener voicemails on there. We've had a number of them over the past couple of weeks, especially since the Christmas era, so I want to get these on the show. So here we go. It's some of our listener voicemails.
Hey, Bulleteers, this is Sir Boltagon. I'm calling up, and I am just having so much fun reading Top 10, issue number 3. The story's amazing. I hadn't read a Top 10 book before until the Top 10 Season 2 came out. And I just picked up on that. I haven't gone back and read anything yet. I'll probably end up using Christmas money to do that. But it's so cool. There's this one page. You look in the background. It's great storyline going on in the background. There's little doozers, as in from Fraggle Rock, and the great graffiti that some people may not get. Penultimate Crisis. It's amazing. The Kirby game and Sand Factory. This book is just outstanding in the little things, but the overall storyline and the plot twist and the characters. Top 10 is quite a book. I need to go back and read some of the Alan Moore stuff of this. But Merry Christmas to y'all. This is recorded, I guess, 1 o'clock on Christmas morning. Merry Christmas to you. Take care.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure I got to voicemails on this episode, because we had a few of them from back right around Christmas time straight on through to present day, and I wanted to get caught up on all those because your commentary is really one of the things I look forward to the most. This book is absolutely outstanding, and I'm really glad. Thank you, Sir Boltagon, for pointing out, because I read the previous top 10 stuff. So I've been under the assumption that this series can be read very contained, that you don't have to have read top 10 before. So it's really cool to have someone calling in who can say, hey, you know what? I picked up this book. I have never read top 10 before, but I got glued to it right away. I can't recommend any of the previous material more. This is from the America's Best Comic line, and this is just a wonderful series. The artwork is always stellar. It's very beautiful. You can't go wrong with it. But this is a nice contained miniseries for those of you if you haven't. It's only going to be a 4-issue miniseries. The first 3 issues have been released. Issue 3 has a very cool Raging Bullets Easter egg. If you look into the background on the graffiti, there actually is a page with a panel that has the Raging Bullets logo in there. That it was artist Gene Ha was kind enough to put in there. But if you take a look, forget just that. Throughout issue 2 and issue 3, there are sequences where there's graffiti in bathrooms and on walls and on houses, and all of it is pop culture related graffiti, just like he's mentioning. So you can literally go back through, you'll read the issue, go back through that and look through 2 and 3 times, and you are going to find something new, some little tiny little nuance in the background. This artwork is stellar. It's gorgeous. It's a great police crime drama story that's set in the future, but with superpowers involved. It's very, very cool. If you like Astro City and that type of thing, this is a book for you. It's got that kind of, there's like a real world aspect to it, but yet it's got the fantastic in it as well. So it's a really cool series, and don't hesitate to pick it up. The writer is Xander Cannon. The art is done by Gene Ha, and it's a gorgeous book. It's very well written. I would not want to follow Alan Moore, but in this particular case, Xander Cannon has done it and has done a great job of showing that he really understands the source material and the foundations that Alan Moore laid out, but yet by the same token, he's not trying to be Alan Moore light. He's doing his own thing in there too, and it works really, really well. It's a wonderful series, and definitely pick it up. I know that it's either March. I'm almost positive it's March, that issue 4 is coming out, and then there's a top 10 special that's also coming out that month. So look for that in the solicitations and pick that up, because it's a wonderful series. So if you missed it, pick it up. And issue 3 is I had a grin from ear to ear when I saw that we had a little tiny thing. It's in the background. It's very cool, but it's kind of neat just to have your thing in a comic book. And thank you so much to Gene Ha for doing that. It's a gorgeous series, though, and I can't recommend it enough.
Hi, Sean. Hi, Jim. Hope you boys are well. This is Martin in Edinburgh, just trying to Skype out, and I want to say well done on reaching 150 episodes. It's only about 6 months since I've discovered you, but you've made my journey to work from work so much better. It just feels so good when you're out there and to listen to you chatting about comics and to listen and play with the whole community. Have lots more episodes. Have a great day. Happy New Year, everybody. Bye-bye.
Mark's been a great member of our community. If you take a look at RagingBullets.com, you'll see that I have a direct link to Mark's blog. He has this wonderful comic blog that he keeps updated regularly. So if you go to the columns section, you're going to find it right away under community content. So thank you, Mark, for your participation, not only on your blog, obviously, but in the forum as well. Mark's a huge member of the forum community, and I really appreciate it. So Happy New Year to you as well, pal.
Hi, guys. It's Logan from Regina, Saskatchewan calling. Second time I've called into your voicemail line. Great job. Really, really enjoy your commentary on the books, on story arcs, and kind of news that's happening in the DCU. Guys, today I'm calling in about Action Comics and the Legion of Substitute Heroes. just before Christmas, I picked up the hardcover edition of the Action Comics that featured the return of the original Legion, the Legion that I grew up with, and the Legion that I hope will appear after Crisis. Now, in there, I was really, really happy to see the Legion of Substitute Heroes make an appearance and save the day. But what really got me was Rainbow Girl. Now, I don't know much about this character. I did a quick search online and found out a little bit about her powers. But what I immediately saw when I was reading that book was her throwing around red, green, and blue energy, much like the characters of Green Lantern, now with the red, the blue, the green corpse, and I would imagine the black corpse that's going to be coming out. Now, it got me thinking, if this individual has that kind of power, naturally, wouldn't she be one of the most powerful individuals in the DCU? I mean, she's not relying on rings and everything. She's doing this by herself and has the power. I mean, John's alluded to the fact that, you know, when she was using the green energy, she has full of willpower. She comes out of there and she's red, you know, has this angry energy that the Red Lanterns have. And they made some comment that, you know, they like her when she's blue and has the hope and is drawing hope and you know, I guess the goodness of the universe out of there. I'm really hoping that with Jeff Johns returning, or I guess writing the Legion into 09 here, and with all his experience and knowledge of the Green Lanterns, because he's done an amazing job on there, that maybe there might be something upcoming in his Legion version that we're going to see this character explored a little bit more, because, like I said, I think she's got to be one of the most powerful characters out there if she's able to do all this, you know, self-contained. Anyways, I hope you get this. I hope that you find some content in here that you can use. Again, you guys are doing a great job, and very, very excited to see what you and what my favorite gang over at DC has in store for us in 09. Take care. Thanks a lot.
I read very broken runs of the Legion prior to the Mark Waid relaunch, and then I read all of that straight on through. But, I mean, I've read Legion in various eras from the 70s straight on to today. It's either from borrowing it from friends or doing that. Rainbow Girl is one of those characters I had to look back and say, well, what were Rainbow Girl? Because I've seen her before, but I didn't remember what her powers were. And she was one of those characters that I believe, and please correct me, anybody who is a Legion expert that knows this, Rainbow Girl is one of those characters that I believe could only access one of those power spectrums at a time, and when she accessed a power, if I remember correctly, it changed her personality. So it's a little volatile, because you don't know what you're going to get, depending on what the power is. But then I remember that she also turned into kryptonite at some point, which I think was part of the reason why she wasn't part of the team, if I remember right. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But, I mean, the personality mood swings, that's always a tricky thing. It kind of reminds me of that Morrison's Doom Patrol, where we got Crazy Jane. You know, you don't know what you're going to get personality-wise with all that, which isn't always the best for a team dynamic. But it becomes incredibly interesting as a comic reader to reader, so I'm with you. I want to see her appear. The question would be, is she the most powerful? I think because of the switching personalities, that throws things off a bit. But it is an interesting theme that you're linking it to what we're currently seeing in Green Lantern, that you would pull from probably. I wonder if Jeff Johns on some level pulled from that. I'm not saying that he did. I don't know. But it would make sense as a Legion fan. I am really excited to see the Adventure Comics Legion book, because if Jeff Johns is penning it, which I'm assuming that's the case, Jeff Johns is going to pull from it looks like all the Legion eras. I mean, I think we're going to see how Legion of Three Worlds comes to a close, and I think we'll see what that's going to be like. But I think he is going to do something where all of whatever era of Legion you read, this book is going to be one that you're going to be able to latch onto, so that way he can pull from all the tools. I have a funny feeling somehow he's going to bring all three teams together. So it'll. I'm curious. I'm just going to see what he's going to do and just kind of wait and enjoy the ride right now. If he pulls from one Legion era, I'm great with that too, because I think the Legion's a great concept that you could really pull from any one of the three eras and get a great book if a writer's really motivated to tell great stories with those type of characters in that era. So I'm not sure. Obviously, he's got a love for the classic Legion team, and I would be in shock if that wasn't a focal point of the new series. So, but this book, I think, is going to be something that's going to be one to watch. I'm so Legion happy at the moment that book, when that kicks off, is going to be great. I'll be curious to see, though, because I know Jim is a huge fan, and I know there's a lot of huge fans of the Mark Waid run. So I'm hoping that Jeff Johns finds a way to give a nod to that series and to keep elements of that series a part of the new book, because I think that's been tremendous as well. So, interesting. Thanks for the call.
Hey, Sean and Jim, it's Sébastien from Montreal. I was listening to the last show, 146, and I think it's Sean that was talking about the fact that in Secret Six, the character of Junior, if he could have his own title, I would like to have. I was thinking about maybe Grant Morrison could write for Junior, because he's just a wacky character. Anyway, I was just riffing about that, and that's why I called. So, hey, keep up the good work. I'm still listening, and I can't wait to hear the other show. Ciao.
Well, that's interesting for me. When I was talking about that, my thought was that Gail Simone would write it. In the event that she wouldn't be able to, sure, I'd love to see Grant Morrison be wacky enough, certainly, to take it. I think any author who's motivated to write for that character would do it because they have some twisted ideas on what to do with that guy. I'd love to read more Junior. I'm assuming we're going to probably see a lot more Junior in Secret Six as time goes on. This is going to be a regular character in Secret Six, so it may be that I'm just going to be continuing to get my Junior fix in Secret Six. But it is a character that maybe could wind up being a breakout wacky character that could appear elsewhere, and it's definitely a unique creation. I like seeing new creations that are compelling enough that you want to see more of them, because it's hard. We always go back to the classic villains and the classic heroes, but sometimes it's really nice to see brand new, well-crafted additions to universes where you actually do want to see more of them, and they can somehow lead to different storytelling. It was interesting, though, that you thought to Grant Morrison, just to another writer, to write that series as well, because that would be interesting to see a different take on characters. I don't know if right now I'd want to see that, because I think Gail's obviously got her book going and all that, but it is interesting to me to see characters kind of grow beyond and be able to be utilized by other people later. I would only want that, though, if Gail Simone couldn't write it, then I would be okay with it, but otherwise I would rather have the original person who created the character to be able to work with the character, so that way they kind of stay true to the original theme. It's interesting. That was interesting commentary. I like that. Sebastian, always great to hear from you.
Hey, Sean, this is Rick Croxton from the Book Cave, and I wanted to wish you a happy birthday and to thank you for plugging my podcast, The Book Cave. There's a book I wanted to shout out about. It's called The Doom Patrol from 2001, and the writer is John, and I'm not going to say his last name, it's Arcudi, and the artist is Tan, Tan, and the middle name is ENG, and last one is HUAT. And I happened to pick it up at half-price books this weekend for about $25, along with several other books, and I've read it, and it's got me interested in picking up the rest of these series. I don't know how long the run lasted, but the cover has the Robot Man, and reflected in his forehead is the new Doom Patrol. And it says, 4/5 new, all different, Doom Patrol. And you got the thought balloon, the Robot Man, looking at his new team and saying, we're doomed. And it does have an interesting story, and like I said, I'm going to have to find out how many there is and pick up the rest of this series. And I wanted to thank you again for the podcast plug and wish you a happy birthday. Thank you. Bye.
No problem at all on the podcast plug. I really like doing that, actually. I've been very fortunate since Jim and I have been podcasting in that other podcasters have been very good and very supportive of us. This is a hobby. Podcasting and all that. I mean, we put a lot of work into this like it's a job for us. But to be honest with you, it's a hobby. I do this for fun. It's really nice to be able to interact with friends and to be able to do this every week, and that you guys come back and you want to be here for it. It's really nice, though, that this is just a fun, it's almost therapeutic in a certain sense to be able to kind of enjoy this hobby this way. It makes me feel good about being a comic fan. But it's one of the reasons why our show comes off very fanboy. That's all we're trying to be. So it's a lot of fun for that. But I love shouting out other podcasts because, like I said, it's a way for people to find the shows that are right for them. And I think that we're very fortunate in that we all have audience bases that are checking out our shows to try and find those shows that are for them. And I think if we're all shouting each other out, it's to the benefit of us, because what's going to end up happening is, yeah, you might lose a listener to doing that, but you pick up more. And you tend to pick up people that were looking for your show to begin with. So it's very helpful to do that. You know, I might point people at somebody else's show and give them an audience, but then they're pointing people at my show and giving me an audience. And it really is nice because you wind up with a community then of listeners who were really looking for you all along. And I think I'm a big believer in all that. I think helping each other out is good for all of us. We all win when we do that. So it's kind of a good thing. So thank you so much for mentioning that. I actually have a couple ideas and some things I want to do that have been on the back burner for this year, is kind of doing a podcasting ring for DC Comics, which is something that we haven't done yet. I talked to Darth Kramer and a few other people about it, and it went on the back burner just because I got really busy. But it's one of my goals for 2009 is to set up something like that where people who are exclusively DC Comics style podcasts could then, kind of coordinate, and then people who have DC commentary on their shows could coordinate as well. So I would like to set up a couple sections like that, and then link to obviously the other comics podcasting rings out there, so people who are looking for podcasts can find that. So it's something that it went on the back burner a little bit in 2008, and it's something that I haven't dropped as an idea. It's something that it's one of my New Year's resolutions is that I'm going to get that done this year. So anyway, thanks for that, and thanks for your support of our show. The book that you mentioned, The Doom Patrol by John I think it's Arcudi. He's the lead creator of The Mask, along with Richardson from over at Dark Horse. So anybody who watched The Mask with Jim Carrey or read any of The Mask comic books, he was the writer during the original books. So, and I definitely recommend seeking those out. Those were great reads, and they were fun, wacky, out there reads as well. And then that Tang, I'm not going to even I'm going to butcher the artist's name so much, but he most recently did with Jason Aaron Ghost Rider, and I read a couple of those issues because I really like Jason Aaron's work. And the only reason why I'm behind on it is because I'm reading so many other things trying to stay caught up with the show. But Jason Aaron's a great writer, and that Ghost Rider series has been fun. So I don't know if he's been doing everything that Ghost Rider with Jason Aaron, but the issues that I've read so far with Jason Aaron and him, he did the artwork on that as well. It's beautiful art. It really is beautiful art. And those are the creators on it. So thanks for that call. Really appreciate it, pal.
Hi, it's Martin in Edinburgh. Just something I noticed today while listening to the show. Before you play the listener audio comments, you have the bit from the Batman TV series in the 60s incidental music. Bum, ba, 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 ba. And then it sounded to me a bit like the start of the Next Generation Star Trek. Do, 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 do. Anyway, that's about as exciting as my life got today. I'm halfway through Manhunter. I'll probably have to go and leave you alone, but if you ever want anyone to sing along with the final countdown to Jim, probably the best I can call it. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
I love that more people are encouraging Jim to sing. It's one of the things I enjoy about this show is that kind of interaction. Yeah, it's funny how much music, Jim actually, and I've got to give this to Jim, how much more music has been something that has tied into comics for me. And especially film scores, film scores without the words in them. I actually do find myself sometimes when I'm kicking down to read a few comics, I'll throw on, not even just from superhero movies, from just various fantasy films and things like that have had wonderful soundtracks. I'll play them. I've got the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, for example. There's times where I'll listen to that when I'm reading comics, and just kind of it's that kind of enjoyment that I'm having with reading those. It is funny though. I will say for me, I do need it to be music without words when I read comic books, and that's the type of thing. And you really kicked me off on kind of a tangent here. I know this wasn't where you were going with this. You were just putting a quick little comment on the Star Trek music and all that, which I thought was great because I'm very Star Trek happy at the moment. But it led me to kind of remember something that we had talked about a while ago on the show, was that music, a lot of times when you're reading comics, can be kind of a fun thing to listen to. I do know that for myself, because I do this in my classroom sometimes, where I'll play music for the kids, and when I do it, in order to keep it from being distracting, but to set a mood and a tone and things like that, I'll use music that doesn't have words in it. And I do the same thing now sometimes when I read comics. I don't do it every time, but I didn't do that before the show, and it was something that was a listener suggestion. I forget who it was, and we had a little discussion during that time about it, and it's very interesting. So I recommend anybody, if you're looking for something fun to do, if you got any of those orchestra soundtracks or film scores and things like that, go ahead and play them when you're reading your comics. You'll be surprised at how it kind of drums up a different kind of excitement when you're doing it. It's interesting to have a score playing when you're reading them, so it's kind of a fun thing. Anyway, thanks for the comments, Mark. Like I said, I'm very Star Trek happy at the moment with the new film, like the teasers that are coming out and stuff like that. I'm hoping that film hits a home run because Next Generation, to me, was a brilliant series. I remember on Saturday nights getting together with friends, and we would watch Next Generation. And it was such a cool series to watch and enjoy, and the cliffhangers would hit, and you'd be, especially the end of the season cliffhangers towards the latter part of the series. There were some huge ones. I remember Data being left. It was in I think it was the Old West, if I remember correctly. It's been so long since I've seen the series, but his head was buried underground, and they had to find it in the future and that type of thing. And it was one of those cliffhangers and the endings. It was just great sci-fi. Battlestar Galactica is kicking up right now, and I'm really excited to have that series back again for its final episode. Because I was afraid that wasn't going to happen when the writer's strike hit. So I'm really glad to see that series is kicking back into gear, to see the ending of that. But Next Generation is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi series. It's great. It's one of those that I'm surprised I didn't pick up the DVDs of it, because it's one that I would love to watch through again. I know it's on TV all the time, but I'm one that when it comes to watching TV series, I like to watch it chronologically. And I catch it so sporadically on television that I can't get into it because I want to watch the chronological order of it. So it's kind of an interesting thing for me. But thanks for the commentary. Yeah, encouraging Jim to sing. That's great. Anyway, our voicemail line is open every episode. Please be sure to send in voicemails. Any of your commentary, especially comic books. If you're reading something during the week and you're like, guys, you haven't talked about this on the show in a bit, and I want to get it out there. The top 10 comments, a great example of this. Geek out, get it on the show, talk about it. Jim and I, time-wise, we've only got a certain amount of time we can talk on the show. You'd think we have no limits with how long the episodes get, but it really is, it's a time issue, and we can't always talk about everything we'd like to. And sometimes there's books out there that you might be frustrated we haven't talked about, or you might forget about that. You might be just saying, hey, I just read this issue and I want to get it out. Call in. Don't worry about how you sound, because that's always one of the big deterrents, I think, of people, that they're afraid to make a voicemail comment because you're afraid of how you sound. We sound like idiots every week, so you're going to fit right in. And honestly, I really like that, though. I love passionate drives for comics, because I think it's to me, if you're spending money on comics, you better darn well be enjoying them. And if you're not, change up what you're reading, because this is a genuine enjoyment that I get of it. And I want to spread that to other people, because it really baffles me that people have these pull lists that they'll pull out and they'll say, well, this is crap, that is crap, that is crap. And I'm like, you're missing the whole point of this hobby if you're reading a whole bunch of stuff that you think is crap. You may really genuinely feel that, and I'm fine with it. I'm not arguing that point, but why don't you change the title? Get something else, because there's too much to pull from that's fantastic, and enjoy that. Bring that to our show, please. Send in your voicemail comments. It doesn't have to be something that we're ranting and raving about every week. It could be something that you are, and get it out there. Especially, like things like Vertigo, Wildstorm, stuff like that. Any DC Universe book that we haven't talked about in a while, get them on the show. We love your commentary. You guys are an important part of what we do here, and we love having you. We're finally caught up on all the voicemails, and I want to thank you all for your patience, and especially for this episode, the patience on me doing these solo. I didn't want to wait another week to do this, and things have been so hectic and crazy that I just use this as an opportunity to get your comments on our show, because that's the most important part, is for people to hear what you have to say. So thank you so much, and let's get to kicking off the end of the show.
Holy caffeine!
Quick little show addendum that I want to make sure you get on this episode. If you are going to the New York Comic Con, I want to remind everyone that there is a Comic News Insider dinner, which ends up being the podcasters' dinner. And we are there. It's on Saturday night. The details are on the forum and on RagingBullets.com. If you are interested, please make sure to sign up and join us there. We would love to have dinner with you and chat with you. We're going to be there, so definitely consider that. Also, we were just on an episode of Comic Timing, which I don't know if it's going to air before or after the New York Comic Con, but we were chatting about DC Comics 2008. We recorded it after we recorded our Raging Oscars segment, so we chat about some of the things we talked about in the Raging Oscars, but we also, and there's Jonathan Carroll is one of the guests on there as well, so it's ourselves, the host of Comic Timing, and Jonathan Carroll discussing 2008 DC Comics, where we see them heading. So it's really more of an expansion on what we just talked about on this. So for anybody that enjoyed this episode, it'd be a great jumping on episode for you to grab when it's on there. That's at Comic Timing, and there's a link to Comic Timing in these show notes. So if you want to check out their programming, I know they're looking at Marvel, DC, and I'm sure Independence as well. They always do a wonderful wrap-up show on 2008. So definitely check out Comic Timing. Longtime friends. We finally got to do a crossover with them after some time. It's a funny thing is podcasters, I love to do crossovers, and it's trying to find the time to coordinate to get together with other podcasts. It's really hard to do when you're trying to keep your own show going and keep up with episodes. So I love doing it, and I'd love to do it more. So I'm glad that when we have the opportunity to do stuff like this, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping at the New York Comic Con we get to record with more people. One of the shows that I want to do a voicemail, I feel bad. I haven't done anything for Reality Waste yet, and I'm going to call them up at some point in time soon and do a couple of voicemail promos for them because I just haven't had time. So, and that's really the honest answer. I wish I could give you a better one. It's just been crazy. But I'm actually listening to their show and quite enjoying it. So Reality Wasted, I want to give them a quick shout out. I want to remind everyone that we're going to be at the New York Comic Con February 6th through the 8th. That's going to be a wonderful event, so please make sure to join us there. Go to RagingBullets.com, click on the handy-dandy link at the beginning. They are supporting us, and we are going to be in the podcast arena. So we'd love to see you there if you're going to be there. Let me know ahead of time if there's anything in particular you'd like to stop by and talk about. If not, you're welcome to come by and just plop down with us and start chatting. We'd love your reactions to current comics you're reading. If you've got a favorite title, get it on the show. Classic titles, it's fine. You can talk about anything DC-related you want to pop by and chat about. If you are a creator and you've got creator-owned books and you want to come over and shout them out on the show, we would love that. It's perfectly fine if you want to get those on the show. Definitely talk about any comics you're enjoying as well. Let people get to know you. We would love to have you pop by our table. We are going to be there the whole weekend, so we would love to see you. Our sponsor for this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Gotham Gazette, Batman Dead #1. Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. Simon Dark is ending with issue 18. Steve Niles, art and cover by Scott Hampton. Can there truly be life after death? Simon and his family and friends must cope with the gruesome aftermath of a profound loss. But the load may be too heavy for Simon's shoulders to bear. Has his time as Gotham's darkest protector come to a close? Must he give up his dream of a normal life? Regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. And I encourage you to seek out the trade paperbacks if you have not read that series. It's a great book. Whatever your shipping preferences, whatever your bag and boarding preferences, DCBService.com accommodates your collecting needs. Don't forget our In-Stock Trades book of the month, which is going to be 152, 153, or 154, depending on how we do this, is going to be our lineup for those 3 episodes. Flash Rogues, the trade paperback, written by Jeff Johns, art by Scott Collins and Brian Boland, collecting the Flash 177 to 181. Regularly $14.99, 47% off, only $7.94. We are also on those episodes going to be chatting about the Absolute Batman Long Halloween hardcover, collecting the 13-issue miniseries, which really adds up to 15 issues because 2 of them were prestige format, written by Jeff Loeb, art by Tim Sale, as the Dark Knight struggles to find an elusive, mysterious serial killer who only strikes on the holidays. Regularly $75, 37% off, only $47.25. And the trade paperbacks available, $19.95, 37% off, only $12.57. And that's a series for anyone who's read Batman Year One. This is a definite sequel to that series. Also, in the beginning of the Absolute, they point out that Christopher Nolan and David Goyer pulled many of the themes from the 2 Batman movies straight from this particular series. So it's going to be interesting one to talk about those themes that are in that particular story. InStockTrades.com offers free shipping on orders of $50 or more and has a ton of collected editions in stock and ready to ship. Thank you for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Next week is episode 150. The lineup has changed a little bit, but we're just as excited. 150 episodes of Raging Bullets. Final Crisis is coming to an end with issue number 7, and we are going to be chatting about it cover to cover next week. We're going to chat about our thoughts and reactions to the event. Were we happy with the ending? Where do we think this ending is going to leave the DC Universe? It's finally here, the end. We're going to find out what really is going on in Final Crisis and really kind of sink our teeth into it. Was any of our speculation correct? Were we completely off the mark? It'll be kind of a fun one to have that discussion. We welcome your commentary and voicemails on that particular issue if you'd like to have those on the show as well. We'll get those either on 150 or 151. So I'm excited for that. We're hoping to have an interview with colorist David Barron. We're going to see if we can work out that schedule. He is currently the colorist on Green Arrow Black Canary. Also Vigilante and Superman Beyond 3D, as well as he's done a ton of coloring work within DC Comics. We're going to chat a little bit about his career as well and have that on that episode. Hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we can work that out scheduling-wise. We're also going to be finishing up the Raging Oscars, Wildstorm, Vertigo, and Johnny DC, and some short segments there. So it's going to be a really action-packed 150th episode of Raging Bullets. Following that, episode 151, I'm hoping to release direct from the New York Comic Con. Get little mini episodes. We might not be able to get everything that we record at the New York Comic Con out to you that quickly, but I'm hoping to release some mini shows direct from the New York Comic Con. I can't guarantee technically that will work out, but I'm going to try. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that's the way it's going to work. Otherwise, we'll release it as a regular episode right when we get back from the New York Comic Con on that Sunday night. So either or. And keep an eye on the website and the forums for some final details on that. So the next couple weeks, we got some big things planned. News and reactions of events from New York Comic Con as well. They're going to be great. So we will see you next week.
Bye.
As with any road trip that Jim and I take, I will pull out the Eye River from time to time and be a pest, whether I'm driving or not. In this particular case, I was the passenger and Jim was doing a little bit of a drive, and it seems to be whenever I've got the Eye River that bizarre things just happen that tend to go along with Jim's phobias, which ends up making for some interesting recording. Has nothing to do with comics, which is why this is blooper reel material. So if you want to abandon ship right now, go ahead. But it has a lot to do with Bridgeman. So any of you that are fans of our creation, Bridgeman, which is Jim's superhero alter ego, we really go through an in-depth psychological exploration of Bridgeman. And Bridgeman's flaws as a character, but yet some of his strengths as a comic book character, because I really do think that Jim, as a comic book character, would be very interesting as a psychological exploration. So definitely enjoy this segment. I was listening to these back. I totally forgot I had them. And I was like, well, all right, let me throw them on here. This was from a while ago as we were going to the Mid-Ohio Con. And so this is stuff that was months and months ago that's kind of lost footage that I never really found somewhere to plug it in, and I figured this would be a good episode to just kind of air these as blooper reel material, so I hope you have a little fun and giggle with this type of thing. One quick little cautious warning. There was a couple of, I think, bits of questionable language in this, so any of you that have kids just might want to keep that in mind. Nothing too crazy. Obviously from the show we don't go off, swear like crazy anyway, but if I remember correctly as I was listening through that, I'll try to nab them as I go along. As with any blooper reel material, I usually throw this stuff on when I'm kind of rushing to get the closing of the episode done. I will not have a lot of time to go through and edit every little tiny detail on this. So just keep that in mind. Fair warning when you go through. There might be a couple colorful words in this one, but this is a fun little ride, so hopefully you'll enjoy this one. Dude, I just want you to know I didn't plan that, because I can't control Mother Nature. Jim and I were driving along. All of a sudden this fog hits, right? Out of nowhere. And all these road construction, what are those things called?
The road construction signs, the yellow barrels, the concrete slabs that block up between
the orange barrels. The orange barrels. So anyway, we get to these orange barrels all of a sudden, and it's like this confined space with these, huge concrete, walled off areas because they're working on, of course, a bridge. But wouldn't you know it, the only place there's fog is right on the bridge that is getting the intense construction. Literally, the second we got off of the bridge, there's no fog.
Yeah, dude, that freaked the hell out of me. I'm sitting there driving. I saw a little sign that says narrow at bridge. I'm like, crap, I didn't remember there was a bridge this way. And then it looked freaky because you literally could not see anything other than just barely right in front of you. I was like, what the hell is this, man?
I just think I find it fascinating with your bridge phobia that Mother Nature doesn't like you.
Yeah, Mother Nature thinks I'm an asshole. So it's gonna, okay, fine, let's screw with Jim somewhere.
I do find it funny now.
Well, at this point in time, I'm able to laugh. My pulse, the heart rate is now starting to slow down again. But, dude, I was having a full-blown panic attack. That was freaking me out, and that was that was sheer terror, intense terror I was going through right there, man. Oh.
Now, dude, I got to be honest with you. I'm not a conspiracist by nature. I tend to believe there's an explanation for everything that's reasonable. But as we're driving over yet another bridge that was not there previously, I'm convinced somebody's out to get you. And I really do think that's the case.
Dude, what the hell, man? I do not remember this many bridges on this route. I've driven it before, never had an issue before. All of a sudden, like, what the heck? Oh well.
I thought that the big billboard saying Bridgeman coming soon was a pretty dead giveaway for me that this is all done for your benefit. Dun, dun, dun! It's Bridgeman! It really is your kryptonite, too. I've noticed that. You got, like, the shakes and stuff like that. I thought the fact that we wound up for most of the time on the grass instead of actually on the road was a pretty dead giveaway that this is not good.
Well, you know what? We got to cross it. We're safe now, so...
Define safe. It seems like every time we hit a bridge, and again, another bridge with fog. There is no fog right now.
Yeah, as soon as we crossed it, done, gone. It's, I don't know, I think Mother Nature is kicking me square in the coulions.
I love this. I'm having an absolute field day with this, with the fact that every time we're on a bridge, it's foggy. Every time we're off a bridge, it's crystal clear.
It's clear now! What the hell, man?
It's nice. Maybe it's nature's way of letting us know a bridge is coming.
It may be. Maybe it's a warning system, you know? Jim, be prepared to be terrorized.
You know, it would be nice if it was the reverse, though, like tons of intense fog now, and then the clearing is a sign there's a bridge.
Yeah, it's the whole... You wonder if not seeing the bridge, not thinking, it makes it easier, but the fact that they decide, hey, let's minimize your visibility on something that already terrifies you, have fun.
Yeah, you didn't look like it was calming not to be able to see it.
No, not at all.
Now here's where we get to test my hypothesis, because once again we're coming upon fog. And if this fog stays as thick as it is, are we going over a bridge? That is going to be... What is your prediction, Jim? Do you think this is a bridge coming up?
I think we're dealing with an overpass here. I don't think this is going to be a full-fledged bridge. Yeah, which overpasses don't bother me at all. Yeah, but yeah, see, it's an overpass over, looks like a stream maybe, or a river. Oh no, train tracks. Overpass over train tracks. So that was okay. So I'm cool.
So you're fine with overpasses. Is there a minor tingle over overpasses, or is it just kind of a non-issue for you?
I would say a minor, just registration that I'm going over something, but it's nothing that causes panic attacks or makes me, as you saw, I drove that with only one hand on the wheel. I didn't need two hands on, I didn't need to do any deep breaths or do we're not going to drive off the side of the bridge. We're not going to, my calming effects that I try to do.
So actually you find it calming to be saying over and over again, we're not going to drive off the side of the bridge.
Yes, actually it's weird. It's if I repeat it over, because the whole basis of the fear is that I'll be swept off the side of the bridge, and plummet to my death. That's the whole basis of the fear. It's not a bridge collapsing, it's that. And it's a very illogical thing to think of. We're in a how many ton car, a stiff breeze is not going to blow us over. So by saying it, I'm trying to convince the irrational part of my mind with the rational part of my mind that says it's not going to happen.
Well, I will say those intense hurricane-like winds that we had a couple weeks ago would blow us off the side.
Yes, those would. Yeah. And if you notice, I really wasn't driving during those intense winds. If I was, there's no way in hell I would have gone near a bridge.
Now, see, this is great because I'm understanding more and more of the Bridgeman universe. Because, main bridges, especially foggy bridges, seem to be your arch nemesis. These are your main villains, your rogues gallery, if you will. So each different bridge would be a different rogue for Bridgeman. But then, these overpasses are like the minor thugs that oftentimes where you need those action sequences, but they don't need to be, firmly identified, fully developed characters like your thug, your arch nemesis, for example, like the major bridges. Those thugs are your overpasses. So, am I getting your universe correct?
Yeah. See, think of it this way: the overpasses are like the Royal Flush Gang.
Okay.
They're villains. Yeah, maybe something could happen someday if somebody decided to beef them up. But as a general rule, everybody kicks their ass without even batting an eye. That's that's what the overpasses are. Whereas the different types of bridges, that's my rogues gallery. You have the expansion bridge, you have the suspension bridge, you have the bridge during rain, bridge during snow, bridge during fog. These are the villains that you gotta step up, you gotta knuckle up, and you gotta fight through. And it's the metal that tests the stability of Bridgeman.
Now, are you like Batman-like in the sense that you have, instead of a utility belt, perhaps different variations on protective harnesses that keep you on the bridge whenever you have to do any of your Bridgeman-type stunts?
Actually, I go with more of an armor type thing. I'm going to build the parachute in case I do get knocked off, But it's more of an armor, so I'm heavier, more solid, locked to the ground. If something happens, I can shoot pylons into the bridge and hold myself steady and whatnot.
Okay. So you want yourself intensely heavy for when you get blown off the bridge and you have to use the parachute.
Exactly.
Okay. And that makes sense to you.
Exactly, of course.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to be sure. Now, wait. I mean, okay, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you get a big enough parachute, you're going to stop anything falling. You could free fall, drop a tractor trailer out of a helicopter, and as long as it's a big enough chute. Hell, it's the original NASA's the spaceships, the Apollos and the Geminis and all that. The re-entry things fell to Earth, and then they popped the chute, and it landed then in the water. So you get a big enough chute, you can hold anything.
Okay, so you're like a Bruce Wayne in the sense that you would go to NASA technology to make sure Bridgeman is always protected.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, just to continue on this exploration of the Bridgeman universe, we've already figured out who your thugs are. We figured out your rogues gallery. Now, with example, the damsels in distress, the people who, are in trouble, the family that breaks down on the bridge, is that what ends up happening? You're almost like a AAA that comes in and rescues them in your special suit of armor? How does this work?
Oh no, they're in trouble. If they're stranded on a bridge, that's what I call the other heroes. Okay. And I put the call out, say, hey, there's someone trapped on the bridge. I'll be here on solid ground, making sure no one attacks you while you're on the bridge.
Okay. See, and that's where the whole theme confuses me, because exactly what does Bridgeman do?
Well, think of Bridgeman as an early warning system. I help people not go on bridges. I try to find alternate routes around the bridges.
So from the Monty Python sketch, you're the guy going, run away! Run away!
Exactly.
Okay, I understand. All right. And there is obviously a benefit to that. So your comic book series, if they did a Bridgeman series ever, would obviously be more of a comedy.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of kind of like an, in the vein of Ambush Bug. It's the Tiny Titans. Something fun for all ages appropriate. A nice little jaunt that you wouldn't really be too serious about, and you would not even consider going, is this in continuity?
Mm-hmm. So we're not going to see Bridgeman anytime soon as a member of the Justice League, perhaps?
As a goof, maybe.
Now, just as a point of clarification here, I think we found your Doomsday. Because, we've got, Superman obviously has Doomsday, which is where that whole thing comes from. With Batman, arguably it was Bane back in Nightfall because he actually broke the bat and broke him down psychologically and all that. In the case of Wonder Woman, now we've got this genocide coming in, which I'm really excited to see. But Fog is yours. Fog in general, because it seems like Fog coordinates your nemesis, adds something to your nemesis to make them that much more dangerous. It's slowly breaking you down.
Actually, I would honestly say Snow is more of my bane, is more of mine, because we were just driving down straight road, no bridge, heavy fog, and I slowed down, but it didn't freak me out. I was just being more cautious because I literally couldn't see anything. For me, snow, driving on snowy roads, snowy bridges,
What about snowy, foggy bridges?
Dude, that would probably be a check my shorts.
I'm totally not driving with you. Just for smell purposes alone.
First you say it, then you do it, man.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty deep.
I'm a deep philosophical type of guy.
First you say it, then you do it. Wow.